Stats? My least favorite positive thing. Business stats? Business stats is what
It's not a wall. It's for a god. It's not a wall.
Is very, very is even more than anyone that you can love is always just a game.
Yeah, so we did get the what do you want to
Love can make it is made for me.
Thank you. It's Nefertiti. He was like, I don't accept Nefertiti. So he's very nice.
The CEO of the band that owns the CEO of a company that owns 8,000
Hey everyone, we'll be getting started here in just a minute if you all want to go ahead and find your seats.
Yes.
I started my application to intern I'm excited. I know. I'm so excited. I'm actually I don't know what. No, you have to be 16 years old. Oh, like mine, you had.
I mean, $1 million might be 10.
It is, yeah. Well, that's like, I started working for like the Department of Education, but I also think it's just the same like the campus Department of Education has any cross responsibilities. Because I think that would also
Make your diameter.
I now call this meeting of the Kansas State University Student Governing Association Student Senate to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to begin our Student Senate meeting taking place on Thursday, November 11th, 2021 with a Land Acknowledgement. We recognize that Kansas State University, as the first land-grant institution, stands on the ancestral lands of the Kaw people. Our state of Kansas is home to 4 federally recognized Native nations, the Iowa, Kickapoo, Prairie Band Potawatomi, and Sac and Fox. We must remember that the land serving as the foundation for this institution was and still is stolen land acquired by white settlers. We pledge our commitment to creating decolonized spaces at the university while advocating for the support and future success of Indigenous faculty, staff, and students at K-State. And with that, we'll move into first roll call.
Thanks so much, Blake, and good evening, everyone. First, Bain. Bannister?
Here.
Barron?
Here.
Binkley? Blood? Booze?
Here.
Bray?
Here.
Kahlo,
Here by proxy.
Chiapas,
Here.
Compton, Croslow,
Here.
Cunningham, DeMott,
Here.
Dock, Dunlap,
Here.
Encero,
Here.
Esslinger, Fields,
Here.
Buss,
Here.
Gann,
Here.
Glasscock,
Here.
Holland,
Here.
Jambunathan,
Here.
Kidd,
Here.
Koch,
Here.
Kramer, Lister,
Here.
Long,
Here.
Lynn,
Here.
Marquez,
Here.
Mayer,
Here.
McPhee, Meyer,
Here.
Middaugh,
Here.
Nelson,
Here.
Pineda Gomez,
Here.
Porter,
Here.
Prester,
Here by proxy.
Richenberg,
Here.
Riffle,
Here.
Rook,
Here.
Solomon,
Here.
Scharnhorst, Shear, Splekel,
Here.
Stout,
Here.
Thomas,
Here.
Vogelmore,
Here by proxy.
Wallace,
Here.
Warren,
Here.
Willis Jackson,
Here.
and Willis Reese. Alrighty, thanks.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Nick. With that, we will go ahead and move into first open period. And first up for the night, we have K-State Athletic Director Gene Taylor.
Thank you very much. Great to be here. Thanks for having me. I haven't been in a couple of years, but it's always good to get in front of you and give you just a quick update. I know I have a short time period, but a lot to cover, but hopefully I can give you enough time for questions. And trust me, there's no question out there that you are thinking of that I haven't answered before, so I'm happy to answer any question. Just a couple of things real quick. We've managed to get through the COVID process like everybody else as best we could. We're about 87% vaccinated of our student athletes and about 90% vaccinated of our staff. Financially, it was a challenge like it was for everybody else, but we ended up better off than we did because we were able to play our football season last year and our basketball season, even though we played it with limited number of fans. Our budget annually is about $83 million. Last year, we reduced that with cost savings and furloughs, and we didn't have to lay anybody off or terminate any positions. We did furloughs and salary reductions, and we were able to save about $10 million on that budget. But at the end of the year, we came in with about $11 million deficit. So it's going to take us a couple of years to make that up, but we've got some opportunities to do that. Probably the biggest changes in the last year or two was the addition of the south end zone. We call it the Shamrock Zone. That was a $51 million project. Came in on time and on budget and really kind of completed Bill Snyder Family Stadium. We have two more projects on the books. We're going to do an East Side indoor football practice facility. That'll start here in December. I'll talk a little bit more about that from how it's going to impact parking. And then a new volleyball and Olympic training center over behind the baseball stadium in what we call Cat Town. So those are the biggest projects we have coming up. All total, those projects are about $130 million. We've raised $97 million of that, and we're going to have to finance some of that. As you all know, or at least I hope you do, our budget is not a drive by anything, but on student fees, we get no student fees, we get no tuition dollars, we get no tuition breaks, we get no tax dollars. We're self-funded. We're one of about 15 departments in the country that are self-funded, and we're very proud of that. And our fundraising and our capital projects are all fundraised. So no tax dollars, no individual dollars from the state are part of those projects. So we're very, very proud of that. One of the things in our strategic plan, just so you know, is our fan engagement. And the number one item on our fan engagement is student engagement. I can't tell you guys enough how much you mean to us and what you bring to for those of you who come to the games, what you bring and the energy you bring to our football, basketball, and all of our sports. We've had great student attendance so far this year at football. Really am glad we moved the band into the student section. Dr. Trace really brought that to our attention, and we really enjoyed it. I think it's added a lot of energy to the stadium, a lot of energy for our fans and for the band itself. They do a great job, as you know. So we really enjoyed the student attendance. So obviously, we've got basketball starting up. Many of our students come out for soccer and volleyball and some of our other sports, and we really appreciate that. Our student athletes appreciate it. a great deal. You know, probably some of the biggest things out there right now is our name, image, and likeness. That was a big deal that started July 1st. Student athletes' ability to earn money off of their name, image, and likeness. That's a new thing. It was passed by the NCAA. Actually, we lost in the Supreme Court 9-0. I don't think the Supreme Court ever decides anything 9-0, but they decided that against us in athletics. So our biggest athletes, we're probably the three athletes that have the biggest deals are Skylar, Deuce, and Nigel. They're not in the millions of dollars, but they're nice deals. Some involve restaurants, some involve a car dealership, some involve a lot of social media. We probably have 60 student athletes who have signed name, image, and likeness deals. Probably most of them are around a few $100s a year. But I think it's a good thing. Our biggest thing from athletics perspective is educating our student athletes so they don't get taken advantage of in those deals, and make sure we help them understand that they're entering themselves in a business, and they need to be aware of all the implications that come with starting their own business, including taxes, legal fees, all the things that they have to do. I would say those three athletes that I mentioned all have representation, which they're allowed to have. Most of them are family members. I think Skylar does have an agent type of person, but Deuce and Nigel have family members that are helping them. So it's not been a major impact. Our student athletes that are part of the name, image, and likeness, I think, are doing it the right way. The only rule, well, we have a couple of rules, but the biggest rule is they have to let us know their deals, what those deals are, and they have to report that to our compliance office. Obviously, the big change in the Big 12 this year with Texas and Oklahoma leaving, we do anticipate them to stay through the conference through the 24-25 year. We have brought in Cincinnati, Central Florida, Houston, and BYU. And those schools will probably start in the 2023 season, so there could be a period where we have 14 schools and then drop back to 12. Still a lot of discussion about that and how that's going to all unfold over the next couple of years. We will be entering into a new TV package here in the next couple of years. That's going to be a big deal for us with the new conference configuration. And so that's going to be something that we'll continue to monitor going forward. Overall, our athletic program is in good health. When I say that, I mean not physical health, but we're putting a lot of emphasis in the support of our student athletes in terms of mental health, physical health, obviously athletic training, and all the academic support services. We've got two tremendous gifts from donors. One from the Morris family that is part of a university gift for mental health and support. Will allow us to add a couple of staff members to help Annie Weiss. Dr. Annie Weiss is our sports psychologist. And then a lovely couple out of Florida gave us a tremendous gift for academics and student development in terms of things beyond their athletic careers, everything from academics to professional development. So those gifts have been very helpful. So that's really going to be our emphasis over the next several years, is to see what more we can do to help our student athletes become successful beyond their world as being an athlete. I am on the presidential search committee. Been very lucky to be a part of that. We've got some great candidates. We're going through the process. Carl Ice is our regent, is the head of that. He's done a very good job of leading us. It's a big group of 20-some, 25. The two students on it are tremendous. The questions that they bring are very, very well thought, and very impressed with our two students that are on the committee. They're down to the next round, which I think there are 6 candidates that they're going to interview next week, and then they'll take 4 candidates to the Board of Regents for final selection sometime in December. But I will tell you, the quality of candidates that we've had a chance to talk to are incredibly impressive. They bring a lot of tremendous credentials, and yes, we're going to miss General Myers, President Myers. He's done a tremendous job. He's going to be terribly missed, but I think we have some really great candidates that could be our next president. And then finally, I'll just touch on a little bit. I'm on the College Football Playoff Committee, if any of you follow that. Don't get mad at me if your favorite team isn't in the top 25. I'm not allowed to vote for K-State, so I can't even push K-State, but you may have other affiliations out there, but that's been kind of an interesting process. So I'm getting close to my 10 minutes, but I really wanted to leave more time for questions, because sometimes you guys may have things that you want me to talk about that I don't necessarily think about covering. So with that, I'll open it up for any questions, and I'm happy to be here as long as I have allowed to have the floor.
Yeah, thank you so much. We'll go ahead and open up the floor for questions. Are there any questions? Senator Warren.
What are your thoughts on Cincinnati not being in the top four of the college football?
That was right out of the gate. You know, I can't get, well, if you listen to the selection show, basically we spent a lot of time talking about those top 6 teams. And other than Georgia, which doesn't take very long right now in terms of conversation, Cincinnati, the biggest thing that we end up talking about is their strength of schedule and how they've struggled in a couple of their games recently. They're a very, very good football team. I probably watched, I'm a huge football fan, but I get access to every game across the country, so I can get on my computer and watch any game. I've watched them multiple times. They're very impressive. And, you know, Oregon and Ohio State are above them right now, but they also have to play some tough teams. So Cincinnati does what they should be able to do. They have a great chance to be in the Final Four at the end of the year.
Awesome. Further questions out there? Senator Stout.
Are there any plans moving forward to allow students to transfer tickets?
Yeah, we've talked about that, and the guy that's probably better to answer that question is Brett Aiken, who works with our SGA executive team. And that's one of the things we've talked about is how do we get more students to come and making it easier for them to come and yet still maintain the integrity of the ticketing system. I don't know that we've come up with a great answer yet, but I know that's something that you have given us feedback as students as to can we do that in a simpler way, and can we do it you know, that makes it a lot more efficient for us. I know we're talking about it. I don't know that I have a solid answer, but it is something we're looking at.
Senator Booz.
Yeah, you brought up name, image, and likeness changes, and that's actually been kind of interesting to me as far as like intellectual property goes. How much of a change was that from your prior policies around, around intellectual property?
Well, we never really had it before. We limited students to basically their scholarship. Even athletes that weren't on scholarship weren't allowed to. Now they could do jobs, you know, when they were out of season. Eventually, we got to a point where, say an athlete was a talented musician or an artist, for the longest time they couldn't even make money off of that. But eventually the NSA realized, okay, that's really not, they're not making money off of their athletic ability. And then when we started, you know, a lot of individuals we started getting sued quite a bit across the country. And then this was kind of where we were heading was, okay, let's let them earn money off of their athletic abilities. And it was effective July 1st. Those of us that have been in the business a long time, thought the world was going to come to an end. We woke up July 1st, the sun came up, and we managed to live through it just like we have. So I truly believe it's a good thing, and I've always felt it's a good thing. I was always kind of in the minority with that. But I think now that it's out there are some deals that I'm uncomfortable with that go against the basic for what we're trying to do. But there's a lot of many student athletes are getting money and giving it to charities. Nigel Pack is actually doing that. He's working with, I think, either Big Brothers and Big Sisters or somebody, some of his revenue that he gets is going back to a charity. There's a lot more of that out there that we don't hear about. That's a good thing.
Thanks.
Caucus Leader Lynn.
I know we've heard this year and the past several years that student tickets and like season passes and stuff have gone down in terms of how many are being purchased. How do you see that affecting like the student relationship with athletics in the future?
Well, it's something it has gone down, and it hasn't just happened at K-State. Across the country, student attendance has gone down for a lot of reasons. Game times. You all have a lot of things going on. You have jobs. You have a lot of, it's easier to sit there and watch it, on your phone or your devices. But we do want our students to come, and it is important for us. And I think we've gone from 7,000 student season tickets in football to, I think we're just around 6,000. I think we finally hit the 6,000 mark. There comes a point where, when we work and promote and we want you to come. We want to put 7,000 students in. There comes a point, I don't know what that number is, where we're going to have to say, okay, we can't average more tickets. Then there's a section right there that we can, our donors would love to have. And it's a huge revenue source for us. But I'd rather not have that issue. I'd rather have 7,000 season tickets from the students. But we just have to keep you guys have to keep bringing ideas to us and saying, whether it's exchange or promotional items or whatever, to make sure we, continue, because it is literally on our strategic plan. The student engagement is number one in our fan experience, and you bring energy, you bring enthusiasm. We love having you there. There's a couple of things I wish would go away, and you know what that is. I've finally given up at this point, but other than that, we really want you to come, and we need you to come, and we're going to do everything we can to keep that going.
Senator Fuss.
Hi there, thanks for coming. In the last 15 years, the Kansas State athletics budget has tripled from $30 to $90 million. What is this increased revenue or increased expenditures? What are they going towards, and is there any end in sight to the explosive growth of the budget?
Well, our budget is right now it's about $83 million. I think if it was 90, it must have dropped back, because since I've been here, it's been right around the $84 million budget, but it's a lot. Primarily that came from TV revenue. When we redid the TV package several years ago, we were getting about, I don't know, probably $15 million from TV. It's currently right around $45 million. The Big Ten's getting about $50 million. The SEC is getting about $55 million. So that's where that money came from. Where it's gone is facilities. It's gone to student athlete support. It's gone to positions, and it's gone to coaches' salaries. And that's why you've seen, and I am not a big fan of it, but it is what it is. A football coach, in my opinion, shouldn't be getting paid $7-8 million a year. But at Alabama, that's what Nick brings, and he brings in a lot of revenue. And that's where we've gotten to the point with our student athletes, is they see all this money being generated, off of their success, and we haven't been able to give that money in some way, shape, back to them. Now, we did add cost of education, so our students are still full scholarship student athlete, gets tuition fees, room, board, books, and cost of education. That equates to about, with all the other equipment and travel, physical support, massage therapy, all the things they get, averages about $70,000 a year for a student athlete on full scholarship. But a lot of it has gone into facilities and salaries. But I do think it's going to hit a threshold at some point, because TV revenue is going to not continue to grow.
Thanks, Joey. Senator Bannister.
With the K-State change in housing policy to have freshmen live on campus, is there any change for student athletes that you're going to see coming from that?
No, we've talked a little bit about it, and we're working with Vice President Lane, and we've talked about how, again, as you know, it's sometimes cheaper to live off campus than it is on campus, and so we're paying scholarships, but we still are going to follow the policy. Now, there are some exceptions already written in the current policy that some athletes will fall under, but if they don't meet any of the exceptions, then they're... Now, we are working with which dorm potentially that might be helpful from a cost perspective, but we're still kind of working through that. But we're not going to all of a sudden an athlete say, well, just because you're an athlete, you don't have to live in the dorm. But we are trying to figure out what's the best way to do that, because we pay for meals as part of their meal package that they never really use, because we feed them on our sports performance table. And so we're trying to figure out some of this. So we want to follow the policy, but we want to make sure it's financially makes sense for everybody. One thing I want to get back to real quick, as I talked about the east side and building the indoor football facility on the east side. That's going to take about 700 parking spaces. Where are we going to gather those spaces? Well, we are going to pave lot 9 and turn that into a donor lot. And I know that's where a lot of the students tailgate pregame. It is not just a student lot, it's actually a general public access lot. And we have been working with some of the SGA leadership to try to find opportunities for students from a tailgate perspective somewhere in and around the complex of the Bill Snyder Family Stadium. We haven't figured that out yet. We're working again with Dr. Lane's staff and figuring out maybe is there something around the wellness center, are there other places we're not aware of yet that we can create a great opportunity for the students to have their tailgate. We'll have that answer well before next season, because that lot will be redone into a donor lot, lot 9, into a donor lot, but we do want to create something for students to be able to gather and tailgate. We just haven't quite figured out how to do that yet.
All right, any further questions out there? Caucus Leader Lister.
Do you know how many students that are on full scholarship?
How many? Full scholarships are 85 football, 13 men's basketball, 15 women's basketball, 6 in golf, women's golf, 7 in women's tennis, 12 in volleyball, and then everybody else is in some sort of partial scholarship. Baseball, soccer, what sport? Tracks, they're all partial scholarships. So I add those up, it's, I don't know, I think in total, on some sort of scholarship base, about 250 of our 400 student athletes. But a lot of them are, you know, we call it equivalency sports. But our budget for scholarships is about $10 million a year. So one of the things I try to remind some folks is that we're about a $13 million a year revenue source for the university. $10 million in the scholarships we pay, plus our walk-ons and the other athletes that come and pay the full boat. It's about another $3 million. Plus we give money, we pay back to the university for IT support, police support, all those other things. So it's about a $14 million revenue source back to the university, our athletic department is.
All right, any further questions? Intern Coordinator Grills.
Yeah, I know you talked about the student lot. I know that's definitely something a lot of people are interested in. Is that a priority that your department has officially or unofficially committed to, since I know you guys are just looking right now?
Yeah, well, it is, because we're going to have to pave lot 9 and turn it into a donor lot. So yes, it is a priority because we want to make sure that, because the public that park in there, I won't say we don't care about them. There's a lot of other public lots that they can go into. But for a student-specific group, we want to find something that we can say, hey, this is yours, whether it's you reserve it in advance or, you know, you just, maybe it's a general mission, but somewhere still easily accessible to students that is really kind of a student-only, is kind of what our hope is.
Thank you.
Senator Stout.
How do you see the new renovations impacting the agronomy facilities north of the stadium?
We're not going to go north of the stadium. At one point, we talked about that with our ag department. They were very interested in it. It's very complicated because it's actually state land given back to, it was way too much. Now, there are some other developments along there with the foundation that, you know, there may be some parking needs over there that, you know, that current lot that they park cars on, that may be turned into more paved lot for some of the other development, but that's kind of out of my wheelhouse right now.
All right, further questions? Senator Middaugh.
With the new facilities being built, are there any plans to replace the auditorium?
No, because that doesn't fall under athletics. And I know not having a pool on campus is a real challenge. Everywhere I shouldn't say that. Most places I've been have had a pool. When I was at North Dakota State, we ended up closing our pool, and but there were some city pools that at least helped. So yeah, I hope they come up with something. But you know, when volleyball moves out of Ahern, that's not an athletic facility. It's kind of treated as such, but that won't be our call as to what happens with Ahern. That's going to be a university call. So, you know, I'm not passing the buck, but those are things that are just really kind of out of our ability to make that decision. So.
All right, are there any further questions?
Great questions, everybody. Thank you very much. Appreciate what you do for our university. Appreciate what you do for our athletic program. Appreciate you guys, and what I know you take on a lot doing this job and being a part of the student government. And that says a lot for you, and I know it's time consuming and with everything else you got going on, but it's important. I appreciate being here and happy to come back anytime and answer any of your questions. And you guys had great questions, and that's why I was able to, I think I went over my time, but happy to do it.
Oh yeah. Awesome, thank you very much for coming, Gene. right, thank you all very much. Are there any further speakers for first open period tonight? Seeing none, we will now go ahead and move into approval of the minutes. The minutes were distributed on Tuesday, as well as the agenda and legislation tracking information. Are there any questions or corrections for the minutes? Seeing none, I will now seek a motion to approve the minutes. Senator Gann.
I move to approve the minutes as they stand.
Second. It has been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Are there any objections? Seeing none, the minutes will now stand approved. Announcements for this week, if my mouse will work. There we go. So we have our COVID-19 information at the top, and I did get that updated to 82% for staff vaccination rates. I didn't think that I did. So next, our Elections Committee application is open and closes tomorrow at 11:59 p.m. Please be sure to apply if you're interested and contact Elections Commissioner Cruson if you have any questions there. There are some restrictions listed in the announcement, so please be sure to take a look at those. Next, like I mentioned last week, our Lapel Pin Order has been placed, and I've been very happy to see lots of interest in that. If you're interested in purchasing an SGA Lapel Pin, please fill out the form at the link below. Next, our Attorney General applications are now open, and if you're interested in those, please contact our current Attorney General, Annalee Hobbs, and applications can be found at that link there. Next, tomorrow night, we're going to have Sga Project Night, so if you want to help me out with a big project that I have, or if you want to work out, or if you want to work with other people on various other projects, the CSI conference room will be open tomorrow in order to do that. So we'll have animal crackers and soda there, music. It'll be a fun time. So please consider stopping by if you'd like. Thank you. Next, for proxies for this week, we have Thomas for Bellamy, Stout for Volgamore, Pineda Gomez for Binkley, and Fuss for Hotzel. Then we have our Zoom request and Senate shout-out forms there. And our SGA member of the week this week is Peyton Lynn. Peyton has been doing so much work behind the scenes and has written several pieces of legislation this year. Thank you so much for your passion and dedication, Peyton. If we can get a round of applause. Got our upcoming events calendar at the bottom there. And then our quote of the week this week is, "Live now, make now always the most precious time. Now will never come again." And that's by Jean Lou Pickard. Oh no. Picard, that's on me. Thank you for that. Yikes. Okay. With that, we will now move into approval of appointments. Is there a motion to consider Resolution 35? Senator Boos.
Move to consider Resolution 35. Second.
It has been moved and seconded to consider Resolution 35. Will the author please come forward? Hey, Ashley.
Sorry, guys. Sorry guys, not super coordinated tonight. Everyone say hi to Jyoti. Hi. God. Okay. Resolution 21-22-35. Whereas the Kansas State University Student Government Association, KSU-SGA, intern program was sufficiently advertised. Whereas one individual attended at least 3 sessions of the KSU-SGA Phase 2 intern program. Whereas the individual fulfilled the requirement applied to Phase 2 of the KSU-SGA intern program. And whereas one individual has been selected to continue on to Phase 2. Be it resolved that Section 1, the following individual be approved as Kansas State University Student Governing Association, KSU-SGA Phase 2 intern for the 2021-2022 term. And this is Jody Kalakara. This is Jyoti. Upon passage by the Student Senate, the individual listed above will be sworn in as the Phase 2 intern.
All right. Are there any questions or corrections for the author? Senator Boos.
There's on line 6, that should be governing, I think.
Yep.
It's mismatched.
I've got that one written down there. Any further questions or corrections?
A correction from Senator Blood, who says to add whom after individual on line 11. Sorry, this one didn't make it to Senate option time.
Yeah, sorry guys.
Did you say whom at the end of line 11?
After individual on line 11.
But I don't see why that would be.
You guys got a good eye for some grammar.
I don't feel that that is necessary personally. Are there any questions or corrections? Senator Scharnhorst.
I think you could put that in the same place. The individual that fulfilled the requirement applied to basically still.
I don't think there's anything wrong with the reading the individual fulfilled the requirement.
I get it, guys. This is a
Personally,
very controversial piece of legislation. This could go all night. Keep it coming.
Any further questions or corrections? Seeing none, I will now seek a motion to approve Resolution 35 unanimously. Chair Long.
I move to approve resolution 35 unanimously.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 35 unanimously. Are there any objections? Seeing none, Resolution 35 will stand approved. Ashley, go ahead.
Okay, so you raise your right hand and then repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of Phase 2 intern and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the Kansas State University Student Governing Association. Woo, round of applause. Okay, guys, this is Jyothi. She's going to tell you her name that I already told you. Major, hometown, favorite smell, and pronouns. Let me know if you're forgetting.
Okay. Hi, you guys. My name is Jody. I'm a nutritional science major. I'm from Garden City, Kansas. My pronouns are she, her. And I think my favorite smell is probably a jasmine.
And her mentor is Kate Thomas, and she's over there, but we can have our moment later. So, thank you, guys.
Awesome. Thank you very much and welcome, Jyothi. Alrighty. With that, for Resolution 36, unfortunately, Benjamin was unable to make it tonight. So I'll actually be seeking a motion to postpone Resolution 36 by 1 week. Chair Porter.
I move to postpone Resolution 36 by 1 week.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to postpone Resolution 36 by 1 week. Are there any objections to that? Seeing none, thank you all very much for that. We will now go ahead and move into committee reports for the night. Are there any committee chairs who would like to make a report? Seeing none, are there any directors who would like to make a report tonight? Vice President Koger.
I'm really sorry, guys. We were making good speed there for a second. All right, gang. I'm going to try and make this pretty brief tonight, but I'd like to start off with a special shout out to an individual here tonight, all the way from Salina, Kansas, the man, the myth, the legend, Kansas State Salina President John Martin, sitting by Maggie over there. And now for the fun stuff. We've been up to quite a bit in the executive branch these last couple weeks. A lot of it is kind of slow moving, but I will begin. First off, a couple weeks ago, got a not very exciting email. Link Scooters is looking at possibly raising their rates. Not great. They're looking to make it 30 cents per minute. They wanted some student input. I'm trying to work to ensure that the contribution to the City University Fund increases proportionally. The raise would come due to rising costs of doing business. Again, not a great thing, but I'll keep you guys updated as we move through that process. Lot 9, Gene Taylor did mention that. I'd like to reinforce to you guys that we do have a student task force going on that, headed up by Director Hunter Flack in our cabinet. He's wonderful. I'd like to reinforce, I think I already said reinforce, but I'd like to echo the fact that they're not looking to hang students out to dry on game day. Frankly, I think they're going to make sure that we're well taken care of in that front. COVID-19 update. Blake did say staff vaccination rate for fully vaccinated individuals is up to 82%. That's up 2% in the last couple weeks since the vaccine mandate is instituted. That's good. You may or may not have heard, but it is likely that the deadline to be fully vaccinated will become January 4th, and that will be kind of moving in cohesion with OSHA, which is Occupational Safety Health. I don't know the acronym, but yeah. Let's see. Michael would be able to tell you better, and you've already heard from Gene, but the search committee is chug-a-lugging along. Hopefully, we'll know the next university president. I'm optimistic by semester, but I also wanted to write on this. Hopefully, following search committee, Michael will quit frowning all the time. TFSC this week approved so they, in the fall, review the currently existing fees. It was arts and sciences this time. They did approve that the fee is still meeting its intended purpose at the time that was instituted. They did a really thorough job, and I thought arts and sciences had a pretty good presentation. But yeah, I'll stand for a question.
All right, are there any questions for Vice President Koger? Chief of Staff Billman.
Sorry, did you give the January 4th date update?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so sorry.
You're good.
All right, unless there are any further questions, thank you so much for your report, Cameron.
Thank you, guys.
All right, are there any further directors who would like to give a report tonight? Elections Commissioner Cruson.
Hey friends, quick report on my end. Blake mentioned it in the announcements about the election committee applications. Those are due theoretically by this Friday, but I only had 2 people apply. So I need at least 5 if we want to have some elections in the upcoming spring. So looking for 3 more people to apply, hopefully by magically tomorrow. If not, I might extend that application period. So probably be back up here talking to you all again. But if you are even considering, if you have any questions, please reach out to me. I would love some more applicants to be part of that elections committee so we can have a really great election season coming up. That's all I have. Any questions?
Yeah, and if you're a senior, that's a really great opportunity because you already meet one of the qualifications of not running next year. So definitely keep that in mind if you'd like to apply. Are there any questions? Senator Scharnhorst.
Can you make it the responsibility of the elections committee to improve the application for elections committee member? Because I looked at it and I hate it.
Well, we could definitely discuss that. And if you were on that committee, you would have a voice in how that happens. I don't know. I can put it in the report. It was just the same application that the previous years of elections commissioners had handed down to me. So I thought it would be great to stay with tradition and having that application be identical. But that's definitely something that we could look at after we have a really good election.
Awesome. Any further questions out there? Seeing none, thank you very much for your report, Reed. Are there any further directors tonight who would like to make a report? Seeing none, I have a quick report.
Stellar.
All right, hello everyone. I totally did not set up for this, but it'll be really quick. So starting this coming week, we are going to be switching over to new Org Central for our Senate operations. Like how we do things every week. So I wanted to show you all where all of the important things are in new Org Central so that we can operate this coming year. So first, I hope you've had the chance to look around because new Org Central is really awesome. And it is so much more intuitive than our old platform. So if you haven't gotten the chance to look around yet, definitely do that. But in terms of what you need to know in order to operate next week and in the future for SGA, the biggest thing is going to be our file system. This is where, if you're going to submit legislation, this is where you'll do it. So when you, actually, I'm going to start over. When you get to your Org Central homepage, it is going to look like this. You'll have that nice Welcome to Org Central banner. And then you'll go to Student Governing Association, which is your group. And so from here, you'll see some different icons. The one that is going to be, or the two that will be most important to you are files and surveys and forms. So if you're looking to do anything legislation-wise, this will happen in our file system. The way that you will access submitting legislation, you'll go to our documents folder. And then within documents, it looks almost identical to how it was on our old platform. So you'll go to legislation, and then submit to Senate operations. And so our judicial branch has already submitted some legislation for next week. But if you want to submit some legislation, you'll just click on upload and then upload files, and then you'll be able to select your file from there. So that is where you all will be interacting with our file system there to submit it to Senate operations, committee chairs, and such. I will be talking to you all about how we are going to move legislation throughout that process. But next, if we go back all the way, we will go to our surveys and forms. So this is where, if you're looking to submit a proxy form, if you're looking to submit a Zoom request form, you will go to the surveys and forms option. Oops. That's fun. Anyway, I'll show you what these will look like. I will get these attached to the agenda as well, so you'll have a super easy link to click. But basically, if we look at a preview, this is what the Zoom request form will look like. So basically just identical to how it was before on the old Org Central, but obviously it's in our new version now. So please take the time, go through and take a look at this, because this will be our new normal. And I'm really excited about this change and all the opportunities that come with it. So I'll be happy to address any questions if we have any about how we operate.
Yeah, thanks, Blake. Does anyone have any questions? Coordinator Grills.
Maybe question for you, question for the room. I know the two of us back here just tried to log into Org Central, and it does not let us in. It says invalid password, username.
Are you logging with your K-State login?
Yeah, I did it through like the K-State, and then you click Org Central. I don't know if we haven't linked up the right stuff yet.
Really quick, when you get to the login page, let's see, I just logged out. Hopefully this will work. Whenever... Hold up. I want to try it from here just to see exactly where they went. When you do this, though, when you go to log in, make sure that you click this school login button. Is that what you were doing?
No.
Yeah, that's totally fine. It is a little bit confusing on the login page, but make sure whenever you go to log into Org Central, you click that top school login button, and that will bring you to our K-State single sign-on page, and then you'll sign in from there. The other one will create you a weird random account that we don't really like, so please make sure to log in with that school login.
Is there a way to get rid of that? I feel like, I don't know, if I'm confused now, being educated.
Yeah, Kelly?
Yes, there will be a way to edit it. You can use the email and password, but make sure you use your email at k-state, not at KSU, because it will not recognize you as at ksu.edu. But do use the school login. The reason why it's still there is because we will allow guests. So non-university members of organizations, or those of you who have advisors who are not faculty staff advisors, they will be able to add an account. So there will always be something extra there. So just get in the habit of clicking the school login option.
Okay.
It's the best I can do.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yep.
Alrighty, are there any further questions for Blake? In that case, you're good. And also, unless there are any further directors who have a report, we'll now move on to College Caucus time, which is fantastic. So, as a lot of your caucus leaders are already aware, we're breaking out for 20 minutes tonight to do like a legislative writing exercise. It is my mission to all of the college caucuses to write college-specific legislation, so we can use that to build a little bit more engagement for SGA. So go where you normally go during caucus time, workshop for a while, and see what you can get done. I'd say reconvene here at 8:10.
All right, any questions? We will work to get Zoom set up. So caucus leaders, please be checking your email for a Zoom link here soon, and we will be sending people your way. With that, we'll see you all at 8:10.
That's so unfortunate for you.
There's a reason why.
I don't want to let her take you seriously. We'll get an interview. Oh, there we go. I'm good. It's been a good day. I like to reject it so much. Where did you get it? I knew you were going to say that. I knew that.
Oh, God. She was just like right there, so I was like, you're going to send out Jim.
You'll just go there.
Yeah, you'll write some college-specific legislation.
Okay, Zoom people, let's get this figured out. Arts and Sciences, if you want to go to room 1. Alexa, that should just be you. Vet Med, I think you're both on. No, we only have one. Okay. Let's see. Engineering, if you want to go to room 2. Grad, if you want to go to room 3. And then business, if you want to go to room 4. We will do that.
I know.
Nick, do you want to attach those who's in what breakout room to the email?
Because our third senator.
Yeah. So we're going to go Arts and Sciences in room 1. Graduate in room 2. Engineering in room 3. And business in room 4. If you all want to go ahead and join those rooms if you're able, please go ahead and do that.
I can tell you.
Oh no, is it muted?
If it's a Tuesday, Thursday class, I don't know. He makes all of his stuff due on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I proclaimed when I came into the room this evening, to Blake that I went to all of my classes.
Hey Zoom friends, can you hear me? If you want to throw in the chat.
I didn't.
Our computer's having some issues right now.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Or hey Ari, is the Zoom working on your computer? Or are you?
Like this class.
Go ahead and try 2 lines.
Forget that I'm in it.
It's really easy.
Like I do the homework.
No, not even.
That's about it.
Not even like that.
So this guy. Bye, Rachel.
Are you asking me to review your paper?
Because I have a scholarship
Okay.
that requires me to take a business or finance or some class in that realm once a year.
Okay, yeah.
Tomorrow is not why. I know. I think that maybe they think that I'm not going to invaluable like skills or something. Yeah. Or just that like not enough people in education are getting like, finance knowledge. Which I mean, I don't know. I guess that's maybe a valid argument. But they are giving me $10,000. So
And some students are the complete opposite. Sometimes they're like, hi, my name is blah, blah, blah. I'm in your. And I'm like, yeah, I got it. You know what I mean? But it's like, that's the way to go.
I always err on
Okay. Exactly.
I've noticed
If the thing is like, you don't do it.
real good scholarship for business majors. Yeah. Although I don't know if I want any greasy coat money in my possession.
Completing it online. Trying to get that done.
It was like a dinger in his ear.
That's something.
Yeah.
I had her in undergrad, and she was like, "Well, growing up, it was also just." Okay, go ahead and move Tommy.
I mean, we're doing the Caucus stuff tonight, which might get a little bit interesting.
It's that I've traveled a good bit in Europe.
Here, I have the agenda pulled up.
The first name, like, everyone.
Yeah, sorry.
Her name is Christina.
Yeah, sorry, Brian. We had some technical things. Go ahead and head to room 1.
It's the second thing in final action.
Room 1 for sure.
Yep, room 1 will work.
Okay, cool.
Sorry.
No worries.
My legislation is up for tonight as well.
I really like
It's the last thing in final action. But I don't think it's going to be particularly interesting.
This one student.
I'll give my positive debate, but
Marcus is like.
Nefertiti.
Hey Marcus, are you on the Zoom by chance?
So I saw my name popped up. I saw my name pop up here, and I saw that you all admitted me, but I'm still waiting to be let in by the host. So.
Oh, just talking about it. Nice.
No.
Go ahead and pick room 3.
Everything I own is from TJ Maxx.
And then we just need a. I don't know what kind of conversation you're doing. What do you mean?
We're talking about shopping at TJ Maxx.
My teacher doesn't post the notes anymore.
Can you all hear me okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Reed Pearson is my caucus tonight.
Yes. You said it's 8, right?
They've all got it.
Notes well. Don't know in class, but I have yet to see him in class for last week. Also, if you put Reed TA for notes, I don't take notes from
Hey,
class.
did you have to Zoom with us?
I'd be like, yeah, just go ahead and download it.
Okay, cool. Alexa is on Zoom. Do you want to go ahead and join and be in?
All right. Okay, cool. So, sorry.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So, have there been any?
All right. Yes, let's do it. What's up? So.
Recommendations you're gonna write for anyone affiliated with a graduate school? Are there any like research projects or grants or traveling projects or whatever that you've done?
Oh no, you're doing fine. No, he was texting me about how the NC who is going to retire in the spring.
No.
And it's like a big deal. It's in the broadcast.
Oh, is it yes,
he's my major professor. But I think cool to get him a recommendation. You would appreciate it. But if you're not sure, but that's something that probably will be towards the end of the because I don't think he's not retiring until all that. Not my semester.
Okay, cool. What else are we thinking?
Yeah. I'm thinking. I think I can. Never hurts without doubt.
Yeah. I mean, I think we should give it the
So
David.
So I want to say
universities have 4 to 6.
don't.
K-State has 2. So he does.
Well, actually, definitely don't. Because if it passes, then
Magnify that by the fact that K-State has the largest amount of veterans or military connected families.
The officer of that group, so then he could create form.
I don't need it. I didn't want to pass, but it won't pass. I don't know. Okay, you'll be explaining. RJ, I don't know what you're it's okay. And let him know how it will go.
Perfect, thank you.
And undergrads and grads too, so I mean, that covers a bunch of folks.
Nice. Anyone else? Donnie, any thoughts from you?
I can't really make large items for accommodations, but I really like the ideas proposed so far.
Nice, okay, cool. So Dr. Smothers and David Brooks, great.
I got Provost Tabor like 2 weeks ago. He was in the GSC like general meeting on that first Monday, and I thought a lot of his goals were very graduate student centric as far as like long-term goals he had. I have to go back to the notes to to the meeting minutes to get more like specific, but it seemed like he was working on changing like the fee structure so that it was, and this is something I feel like KC's been working on for a while, so that it was easy to understand, but also so that it's kind of like rolled up for graduate students. So hopefully at some point like students with assistantships would have like less fees after tuition is reimbursed to pay for. He's also long-term, he was describing a different fee structure or like funding structure. Right now, the funds go kind of like straight to the colleges, and so it puts a lot of the administration of, well, are you paying your grad students enough? Are you doing this enough? Kind of out of the like administration's hand, but also then if like colleges say they have like a project they're working on or whatever, like I'm not doing a very good job of describing like his like vision of what was going, but it seemed like it was in support of like graduate needs and what they're doing and going through and like some of the struggles that they're having now. And so he kind of like approached that at an administration level. And so I felt like he really has like us in mind when he's looking for ways to make a difference at K-State. So we need a commendation. I think he would be one, and then I could help like get more specific.
Yeah.
To
Totes. Okay, so we have 3 good ones, I think. Or,
Did you just say totes?
yeah, that's totes.
Didn't expect that.
Okay, not rude. Two, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with totes? Everyone says totes.
Marcus, kid, no one says that.
Totes? It's just totally. Yeah,
Totes my
I'm
goats.
30.
My brother's 30, he says totes my goats. There was a commercial with that. Totes my goats. My brother's 30, that's what he says.
They don't judge us who are over 30.
That's gonna be a millennial thing.
We're not millennials.
Okay, well.
No, we certainly are not.
I just like made it.
You are not.
That's why you guys laughing. I don't know how.
You're a whole nother type of
Well, okay. Totally. This is great, y'all. Totally. So we have 3 different commendation ideas. So what we could do if we're up for it, as a group, maybe we can like partner or like group
I do.
Yeah, so right now it's sending it to
I'm busy now, but I would love for you to
I still want there's something coming.
should y'all feel like best friends that we all work together for and then
I'll see it. I don't know if I can change it.
and then Billy and Johnny, would y'all want to work on David Brooks' conversation?
Yeah.
Okay, so Billy for David, is that time sensitive or?
To the best of my knowledge, I know that.
Okay.
Like I was gonna show you, I know you're like, you need to submit a form.
Yeah. So, is it realistic if we try and have drafts made by like
Blake doesn't care about you, Reed.
No, that way. Okay, so then that way, like we have plenty of time for others, and then you can try and time it when he'll make his announcement. I assume he'll have like a
He's already announced. He's got something going on. I don't know, they'll probably.
Right.
We want.
Yeah.
We're gonna have
our time catch up with that.
So
So make the goal
instead-
beginning of the spring semester, have our drafts done, and then we can work together to approve through.
So for anyone who
The
needs
doable
a
plans.
proxy form or request.
Okay, any objections? One
I think
question?
if I perceive him
Just to be clear though,
saying
even though I'm not in front of
anything,
you,
I
I do not
yeah,
feel
I
that
recognize
that
that.
makes me part of it.
That's how
Support the things you do, Mark.
Thank
you. And I appreciate
And then
it.
once, if you.
I appreciate it.
No, it's just me too, I was like,
Same thing. Caught me off guard too.
He did that on his own. I sat down, I came in on my own, sat down, and he said,
That's the goal.
You're the best, Mark.
I haven't forgotten about that.
what?
We turned websites off.
Yeah.
So Ashley will be the person who will be opening the website for, so whenever you're ready.
The reason I'm talking about this is I have feedback in at the end of the semester.
Ooh.
I would be here.
Party with
I'll see if I can coordinate with Rachel or.
Together face to face with like all of us there. You guys.
Cool, thank you very much.
Yes, one second opinion. Election schedule. So after all of that, right, and we finalized.
Exciting. Are you graduating too, Billy?
Everything like that.
No, I'm not.
5 weeks, that would be the 22nd and 23rd of February.
Yeah, so it still happens during the 6th week of the school year.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's you.
So the 22nd, 23rd is election.
Perfect. I just wanted another opinion before I said it was the case.
No, you're good.
Thank you.
Hold on, actually. Okay, good, yeah. 2 weeks there.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll switch. Yes, nice. Effort successful.
My humble request.
Good work, Reed.
Okay. My humble request, and once you do get some dates locked in, I love calendar invites, so please feel free to send a calendar invite so I can lock it.
I do too.
Have it go elsewhere.
I second that.
No. So, at least.
We don't have time
I'm
for
not a big
that.
calendar person, but when something, like, I don't wait for something that is important, I put it in there and then pops up, and I'm like, alright, cool.
I live by my calendar.
If something's more than a week out, I think. I hear whatever.
That's how my advisor and I communicate.
So I mentioned.
If someone sends me an
Which I probably shouldn't have done, but appropriate action would be good. You don't want this to pass, is to vote no or like you need to take.
Haven't decided yet. Everyone has hoping to have a committee to discuss.
For availability, are there any like things
Say
that
like this. Theoretically, I should have people.
Yeah, well, but I think he
Say like this.
we should start off with that.
Elections.
We do that, potentially fails, then the.
Yeah, I have class Tuesday and Thursday morning, and I can work anything.
I feel like people don't like to appoint things.
Tuesdays, Thursdays, I don't have class at all. Wednesdays, I have class from like 11 to 3.
Yeah, for anyone who.
It's not up to me, it's a valid motion. So, like, I can see a scenario where table indefinitely fail, amendment fail, no.
I have, Monday is the best day for that.
Wait, well, I'll pass this off to.
Because his is sort of a preference.
Friday, I have a lot of classes, but I could do it before 11:30.
I can do it before 11:30.
Billy, you'll be here Friday, right? Or Friday, right?
So.
Yeah, cool. So plan for Friday, and then we'll go from there. Please.
I'll add the 2 meetings to my radar. I was just thinking like.
Yes, before 11:30, preferably. Sorry, Billy, thank you.
Overlapping what ours will be to see if they align. I did the exact opposite of what
I'm gonna finish setting this up.
Unfortunately, I got
I'm just gonna.
Michael Arnold. I thought it was really funny when you squatted down up here like a dad to take the pictures.
Yeah, I am 45 at heart.
I know. I just thought it was funny.
I'm glad I can use. I did not intend to like all, but I did. My brain was second base. Snail.
Because I think at most of the class,
They already have the headstone.
my sister I think the most sleep I've gotten in the last 3 weeks on an average day is 6 hours.
So then one, you do have your community activities.
Well, I'm at 8
You're an engineer. Hide it Yes. Also, I have the alternative. You want to broadcast a message? We're in car. It's pretty simple. You can do it. My best friend. Why does that happen? It's just fun. I probably didn't do that part. Did your equation for entropy, personal processing.
You probably don't even know.
Find your Q, your DQ,
Oh.
Take advantage.
No, that's
never mind. You're talking about
there's a separate one for Australia.
Oh, yeah.
How was your college time?
It was so productive. But did you have any? No.
It was her.
Drew is gone, and my third one has not been torn in yet. So,
Well, man.
I am the College of Education.
It's the hanging closet. See, it's like I talked to myself. It is a hanging closet now. There's two birds. Yeah, it's like, yeah. I read my no, I want to get the individual that applies. Or the individual.
I'm stuck in this. She felt the need to one-up me. One-up me like that. Is that necessary, Martha?
Why are you looking at me?
Well, yeah, that's kind of what I was like. You know, I wanted it, but I have my, it's pending. I have my heart set on bigger things. So, like, I can't take it too hard. He doesn't look a little.
How's it going, John?
For casuals have it.
That's what I get a lot whenever we meet people that is Zoom, you know?
What? You didn't do anything. I wasn't even talking to you. Yeah, Jacob, not everything I did. That's not true. Jacob, I generally enjoy your presence. I wouldn't spend so much time with you, idiot. I don't even think that was really an insult. We're gonna start meeting next semester, and I plan on just kind of like gauging what general time works best. And I mean, you don't have to
Does
be
anyone have any extra snacks on
I will
hand?
put you on there. Rekristen, I love you.
I asked about snacks. I found some. Thank you, guys.
I'm meaning to ask you.
All right, everyone, we'll get started in just a minute. We're waiting on just a couple more people.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for doing College Caucus time today. I hope that was a really beneficial session for you all. We will go ahead and pick back up with our agenda and go ahead and move into final action for the evening. So with that, we have Bill 212230. Oh, Chair Salmon.
Yes, I move to consider Resolution 45.
It has been moved to consider Resolution 45. Is there a second? It has been moved and seconded to consider Resolution 45. That is currently an introduction of legislation. Seeing we have a valid motion on the floor, will the... I did forget to approve the allocations. Thank you, Jacob. RJ, can we hold that motion? Cool, thank you. With the permission of the second. Yes. So, sorry about that. The paper splits at the wrong spot. We'll now move into approval of the allocations. So we have Bill 32, which is the fiscal year 2022 travel allocation to the American Nuclear Society, and that was referred favorably from the Travel Allocations Committee 6-0. With that, is there a motion to approve the allocation? Senator Scharnhorst.
I move to approve the allocations. Second.
It has been moved and seconded to to approve the allocations. Are there any objections for that? Seeing none, thank you very much. The allocations will stand approved. And now with that, it has been properly moved and seconded to consider Bill 212245. Will the author please come forward?
Hello, everyone. This is Bill 212240. It's wrong on the agenda. 45.
Yes,
Expulsion of student senator by me, sponsored by the Senate Operations Committee. Whereas Article 4, Section 5C of the Kansas State University Student Governing Association bylaws states that any student senator, student Senate committee chair, or SJ intern with 3 unexcused absences or an excessive level of absences is subject to expulsion, whereas Michael Cunningham has accumulated more than the requisite number of unexcused absences for expulsion, and whereas the Senate Operations Committee voted 6-0 to 0 in favor of expelling Michael Cunningham, be it enacted that, Section 1, Michael Cunningham be expelled from the position of Student Senator for the College of Health and Human Sciences. Section 2, this legislation shall take effect upon passage by Student Senate.
All right, are there any questions or corrections for the author? Senator Booz.
Yeah, we voted on a version that had another whereas clause that would list the number of absences that he had. Could we re-add that whereas clause?
Yeah, so I didn't have that in there because I didn't have that number at the time, just because I didn't have access to the attendance spreadsheet while I was making the agenda. But it is 11 absences, and so I'll put that line back in for the passage.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks.
Are there any further questions or corrections? Vice President Koger.
It says standard procedure. I'm just looking to get I don't recall many expulsion bills.
Yeah, that's a very good question, Cameron. The last time that we expelled a senator was in the 2016-2017 term, but it is like a clause that's in the Constitution, and it's not unstandard for us to expel someone for excessive absences.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions or corrections? Senator Gann.
I'm assuming you've already noticed the bill misnumbering that should be 45.
Yep, got that one. Thank you for that. And then Caucus Leader Kidd.
Yeah, so this is kind of piggybacking off of Cameron's question, but so in the past, like with other students just resign when they were noted of like, hey, you threat. Okay.
So what, can I expand on that a little?
Yeah, so generally the practice of previous speakers has been to really encourage resignations rather than going about this method, and it's been successful up to that point. Unfortunately, in this case, I tried 3 different emails, 2 different text messages, 2 different Twitter DMs. So outside of sending carrier pigeon, I have exhausted all options, unfortunately. So that is where the procedure kicked in.
I do want to stress that this is not like a thing that's done out of malice or anything. This is just to have the most effective and efficient Senate that we can.
Any further questions or corrections? Seeing none, thank you very much for that, Evan. So that has, Chair Solomon.
I move to special order bill.
It has been moved to special order.
Seconded.
And it has been moved and seconded to special order Bill 45. With that, that is a debatable motion. Chair Solomon, you will have first rights to debate.
All right, this is pretty simple. As Evan was saying, like 1, Senate Ops has already voted on this, 6-0 to 0. 2, this is standard procedure. And 3, I think pretty significantly, we're having constitutional amendments brought up tonight. And so having like the updated number of senators who can vote and who are here is very important to that process.
Thank you for your debate, Chair Solomon. Is there any debate in the negative on special ordering this piece of legislation? Senator Booz.
Yeah, while it is valuable to have the correct number of people sworn in and that sort of thing, special ordering something is by definition never standard procedure. And I think in this case, this is something that we do not particularly need to do. Special ordering is something that is exceptional and something that should only be done when it really needs to happen. And I don't really think that it meets that threshold tonight. So I guess I'll ask you to vote no.
Is there any further debate in the positive on special ordering this bill? Senator Scharnhorst.
I think Senator Solomon was absolutely right when they said that it does affect the number of senators selected and qualified for these constitutional amendments, which some of them are anticipated to be controversial. So if we're not going to have a voice in the Senate to contribute to this, then because clearly the senator does not want to contribute at all, we shouldn't have that count against some of these amendments.
All right. Is there any additional debate in the negative on special ordering Bill 45?
Blood in the negative.
Blood in the negative. Thank you very much. You have the floor, Brian.
Thank you, Blake. Just to kind of reiterate what one previous speaker said, as well as touch on the fact that a lot of questions were asked tonight about the expulsion of senators, about that practice. And while Senate Ops did vote unanimously on this, it's not something to be taken lightly. It's not something we've done in over 4 years now. And we should really take that full 2 weeks to follow our procedures and go through everything. If people have an issue with potentially the threshold for constitutional amendments, they should feel free to postpone those bills and wait until next week after we have the time to fully consider this bill, and we can take that legislative time. But that doesn't mean we should special order tonight this expulsion, because that is a grave thing that our group here can do. And it's very important that we take the extra week to think and reflect over that process and what we're doing.
All right. Is there any additional debate in the positive on special ordering this bill? Chair Solomon.
All right. So once again, I would like to state that it is extremely important that we have the updated number of senators to ensure that the constitutional amendments that are being proposed are actually being voted on by people who are going to be in Senate who want to vote. Additionally, previous speakers' points of the amount of time since we have last done this being a significant number, which is about 4 to 5 years, being very important, and therefore it's a very big momentous situation. I disagree with. I think that this is a pretty standard practice that, despite the fact we haven't done it in a while, should not be looked upon as something that's insane in Senate. Additionally, it hasn't been proven 5 or 6 or 7 times that he will not be showing up to Senate. He does not care about being in Senate, and so his voice shouldn't be given on things as important as constitutional amendments. Additionally, I think a lot of us have had time to reflect on whether we want him to continue being in Senate or not being in Senate since getting the agenda when it was emailed out. And additionally, there's enough time right now to think about your vote and decide whether to vote yes or no on this piece of legislation. Just because something has been policy, just because something hasn't been done in a while, shouldn't make it something that we shouldn't do now, in my opinion. Thank you.
All right. Is there any additional debate in the negative on special ordering? Senator Bain.
Hi, this is the first time I've actually negatively debated something, but I guess I feel for the equity of the grad students that have, that we're actually, okay, so we have 8 student senators that we can have. We're down to 6 right now. But we had, I think, 6 that came from the election back in March or April or whenever elections are. And it took from March until about the end of September for us to find someone that could fill one of the spots. So I reached out to Senate Ops and the speaker, and it took then a month or so. I don't remember when Kyle was sworn in, but it took the grad student senators a month to get someone approved to fill one of our vacant spots. And so I feel this is not quite equitable for the grad students and their representation when it took so long for us to get someone sworn in. And then to expedite this process, it would have been nice to have the grad students have their senator expedited to have our equal representation too. So that's my debate, and it doesn't necessarily specifically have to do with this case, but I would have liked us to have that same opportunity in our case, which you might not have heard about, so I thought I'd bring it up tonight. Anyway, thank you. I don't have any hard feelings towards anyone, but that's my strong opinion that grad students also should be heard, and we didn't get that opportunity, so that's all. I don't stand for caucus.
All right. Is there any additional debate in the positive? I have positive debate. All right, everyone, I don't want to take up too much of your time today with the debate. The biggest reasons for special ordering this, number one, by allowing the senator to be removed. Well, sorry, to start off with, the purpose of our 2-week legislative process is to send pieces of legislation to committee for that committee to essentially give their thumbs up, thumbs down. What do you think about this legislation? In our case, that requirement has already been satisfied with the Senate Operations Committee. As the sponsor of the legislation, you can see in the whereas clause on line 15, the Senate Operations Committee has already voted 6-0 in favor of this expulsion. And so essentially that part of our legislative process has already been done. If we were to send this back to committee, in my opinion, and as we all know, nothing is going to happen. It's just going to wait a week and then we'll vote upon it next week. Because we have constitutional amendments being proposed tonight, it's extremely important that we have the accurate number of selected and qualified senators. Because in order to pass a constitutional amendment, we need 3/4 of those selected and qualified, which means every student senator sworn in currently, not just those who are here. And currently, unfortunately, we have a student senator who has not been here since the beginning of the semester. And so with that, while they are technically right now selected and qualified and essentially automatically count as a no vote towards those constitutional amendments, which in my opinion isn't really fair to our legislative process on how we vote on constitutional amendments. So by special ordering this and by voting on this tonight, we are ultimately able to have an accurate number of selected and qualified senators in our voting. Additionally, I know that special ordering isn't standard procedure, but the last time that this was done, this was special ordered with a unanimous vote. Additionally, the expulsion was complete with a unanimous vote. And to my knowledge, that is what has happened on the previous times, just because of that legislative requirement that has already been fulfilled by referring to a committee. And so that's why I strongly urge you to vote yes on the special ordering for this tonight, because really, in my opinion, we can get this clock started additionally tomorrow for getting that vacancy filled. I know that a previous speaker mentioned the length of time that it took for a specific college to have their seat filled. That was right around the time when, unfortunately, we had our Senate Operations Chair resign, as well as insufficient funds was happening. Whole bunch of stuff was happening all at the same time, and so unfortunately that was on me. I could have done a better job of getting that position filled, but unfortunately that was kind of the context behind that. So now that we have a Senate Operations Chair, that process can get started tomorrow if we fill this vacancy, and I know that Chair Porter already is meeting with the Health and Human Sciences Assistant Dean to be able to really jumpstart that process on getting HHS senators filled in the college caucus. So with that, anyway, that's my debate. Thank you all very much.
Alrighty, thanks for that debate, Blake. We'll now be seeking speeches in the negative on this legislation.
I have a question for the chair, if possible.
Go ahead.
I mean, either. Do we have any other student senators who might have three unexcused absences?
We do not currently.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate that.
Alrighty, in that case, we'll now entertain speeches in the negative on this legislation.
Croslow with debate in the negative.
I'd like to echo some of what the previous speakers have said about this short-circuiting our deliberative process. I have the same reservations. If we're going to take this step of expelling a member from our ranks, we ought to be as deliberative as possible. I also have heard what a previous speaker said in regards to previous expulsions have been done via special order. Those previous expulsions were not after the sort of problems that the Senate has faced recently in regards to COVID. I'm not convinced that this senator who we're seeking to expel has had all of their due process delivered to them. I believe that's the case, but I don't want to be put on the spot and be forced to make a decision within a few moments. I understand. I read the the pre-brief. I saw what was coming. Okay, but even in that case, I had about 24 hours. I'm not sure that's sufficient. I think we would send an improper message, especially in light of how sort of loose we were with previous attendance rules over the last few sessions of Senate. I think we should maintain an internal consistency and at least be honest with our own processes. Be deliberative, take the extra week. I don't think it's going to demand that much more of our time, but it certainly would honor what we've been saying that we've been doing, and it would be consistent and equitable, as I believe. Thank you.
Alrighty, thanks for that debate, Billy. We'll now move back to speeches in the positive on this legislation. Chair Jambunathan.
This isn't a debate.
can I ask, like, point of information, can I ask a question? So did you email this senator before this legislation hit us today? Like, does he know that it's happening tonight?
So I sent 3 different emails, one at the very beginning of the year once that threshold was reached. And then as soon as we started exploring this process, I have emailed 2 separate times saying, basically, hey, please resign or this will happen. That was also included in the 2 text messages that I sent last week, as well as the 2 Twitter DMs that I sent as well. So from my point of view, I've done all that I can to make it known.
Thank you.
Thanks for that question, Durga. Intern Pilchard.
Just another question. What's the standard procedure when it comes to the weeks, or just like the number of weeks it is from the point of where they have met threshold for the absences and up until the point where they are basically expelled?
I can answer that question. It's really up to the discretion of the speaker, how intense we want to be with that process. I mean, we could have made the decision, like, it's written down that we could, like, expel them after they've met the number of absences. Everything that Blake has done post that point has been out of his interest to, like, give Michael grace and try to keep him involved.
Correct, and that's why I've, in my opinion, given many attempts to not have this process happen. But unfortunately, this is where we are.
But thanks for that question, Ethan. Okay, are there any speeches at all in the positive? All right, now we're turning to speeches in the negative on the motion to special order. Is there any Chair Booz or Senator Booz?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting to be debating this at all. I was just expecting to come up here later and debate on Bill 34, and it seems like these 2 debates have kind of intersected each other, because it seems like a main purpose of the people who want to special order this is to make sure that we have a specific number of members when we vote on Bill 34. And I can see some of that. I get that. But I don't believe it's worth doing, like, speeding up our processes to vote on a completely separate item in order to get the correct number of people on Bill 34. And I think the decision we need to make now is whether we want to use this exception to our process, this exception that should be exceptional, in order to expel this person at something that we have not done in 4 years. I think that this is something that we could have done in our normal process and should do in a normal process. And if something comes to light in the next week, which I don't think it will, but it's always possible, I think that we should have time for that to happen. And I think that's the decision we should make. I don't think we should be, like, thinking about any other piece of legislation, just whether we want to break our rules, do something exceptional, in order to do a process that is already exceptional. And I don't think we should. Thank you.
Alrighty, thanks for that debate, Andrew. Now, are there any speeches in the positive? Leader Lister.
Okay, this is just to clear some things up too. So I'm the caucus leader for College of Health and Human Science. I have never met this individual. When we were sworn in last semester, it was me and RJ and some other individuals that have since resigned. But I think we got his email or something. He's never responded to my emails, anybody's emails, group texts, nothing. Possibly was on like one Zoom call and never turned on a camera, never interacted, wouldn't speak, and that was when we were trying to elect a caucus leader. So just to reiterate that they are not involved at all, to make you feel better about voting potentially yes on this tonight or next week or whatever.
Alrighty, thanks for that debate, Nadira. Now, are there any further speeches in the negative? Any further speeches in the positive? Speaker Phillips.
I'm sorry, everyone. I know we just want to vote on this. I just wanted to make one more point. So in our bylaws, I just wanted to look specifically at what our legislative process is, because I know that saying that we're jumping the gun on our process has been very prevalent in the negative speeches today. But when we look specifically at our rules in the bylaws, the purpose of referring legislation to committee is to, and the first point says, report the legislation to Student Senate with a recommendation that it either be passed or not passed or without recommendation. And as you can see in the last whereas clause on this legislation, the Senate Operations Committee has already done that. So in my opinion, our normal legislative processes have already been met because of that. Whether it takes 2 weeks or not is not what this what the bylaws say. It is specifically that the goal of having that legislation come out of committee is that it comes back with a recommendation to Student Senate that it be passed or not passed. This was voted upon on Tuesday in Senate Operations, and you can see that on the legislation. So that process has been met. Thank you all very much, and I strongly encourage a vote in the positive on special ordering.
Alrighty, thanks for that debate, Blake. Are there any further speeches in the negative? Are there any further speeches in the positive?
Crossload debate in the negative.
Oops. Sorry, Billy.
Had to set that up again. Thanks for recognizing me here. The previous speaker talks about what the bylaws say, and that was after the first reading, it was sent to the committee. So a committee that generates the legislation itself and sends it with a favorable recognition is only one part of the process. It's not been checked. The implication in those bylaws is that it's been read first and was devised by someone else, not that committee. So that previous argument sort of falls on deaf ears for me. I don't think that that's the case. I don't think there's been the appropriate amount of checking with this. And to echo what another speaker has said, we're looking to arrange our procedural ducks right now to tackle something bigger. That also doesn't resonate with me. We should have planned a little better if we were going to anticipate constitutional revisions. And maybe this is the sort of wake-up call we need. Instead of allowing ourselves to special order something because, we didn't plan this well enough, we need to sort of take our lumps and realize we should have planned better and address the constitutional legislation at a later date. Thank you.
Point of information.
Yes, Blake.
Where in the bylaws does it specifically say after the first reading?
I couldn't answer that question. Billy, potentially you could?
Oh, no, I said that was the implication, was that it's referred to a committee after it has been introduced. That's my understanding of it, right? That's the timeline?
Chief of Staff Billman.
Out of parliamentary inquiry, what number of debate are we on for this motion?
We are on 1, 2, 3. Yeah, Billy is the 7th opportunity to speak in the negative.
Thank you.
Wow, we are able to close the
Alrighty. Leader Pineda Gomez.
I move to call the previous question.
Second.
Alrighty. Are there any objections? Perfect. So we'll now move on to a hand vote on the motion to special order Bill 45. So if you are in support of special ordering this legislation now.
Previous question has to be voted on, I believe.
Oh, gosh.
It does require
A roll call. Oh, yes. Okay, my apologies.
Senator Scharnhorst.
To suspend the rules and just allow it to be.
Because I would really encourage not doing that so we can just see if it's 2/3 of hands. Okay. It is just a hand vote, so it'll take like 10 seconds.
Okay.
In that case, now we are voting on the motion to call the previous question. So to move on to an actual vote on the motion to special order, if you are in support of moving on the previous question, please raise your hand or both of your hands if you have a proxy. Alrighty, please put your hands down. If you are not in support of moving on the previous question, if you would like to continue debate, please raise your hand or both hands. Perfect, thank you. So with that, the motion to move to the previous question does succeed. We'll now continue to a vote on the motion to special order, which, am I allowed to do that as a hand vote as well?
Yes.
Alrighty, fantastic.
Yeah, I move to suspend the rules to make this a roll call vote.
It has been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to suspend the rules for a roll call vote. Suspending the rules is a debatable motion, so we will now move into debate in order to suspend the rules. So Andrew, you have first rights to debate. It is not a debatable motion, that's my bad. So all of those in favor of suspending the rules, please raise your right hand at this point. Proxies you can raise too. Thank you for that. All those in favor, or all those opposed, same sign. All right, the nays have it. The rule, or it will not be special ordered, so we will move into. My bad. It is not. The rules have not been suspended. We will now move into a vote to special order this piece of legislation. So if you are in favor of voting on this legislation tonight, please raise your right hand. Proxies, you can raise too. Thank you. All those opposed, same sign. All right, with that, the yeas have it. This bill will be special ordered tonight. So, because that has been special ordered, we will now move immediately into debate on the specific Bill 45. Yes, Evan.
Hello, everyone. Obviously, no changes have been made, so I'll get right into my debate. I think there's a couple reasons that we should be voting yes on tonight's on the expulsion. They've been iterated several times already, so I'll keep it brief and just say this is a senator that has been contacted many, many, many times, has shown little to no interest in participating in Student Senate, has accumulated 11 absences, and their seat being functionally vacant makes it harder for us to do business. Whether the motives behind the special order, regardless of what the motives behind the special order were, it is important that we keep Senate working as efficiently as possible, and this seat having an individual in it that refuses to show up and is dodging Speaker Phillips's attempts to contact him makes it impossible for us to be as efficient as we possibly can. So I really encourage you to vote yes, regardless of what happened with the debate over special ordering. Try to put that aside and just vote on the bill itself. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your debate, Chair Porter. Is there any debate in the negative on Bill 45? Vice President Koger.
This will be really, really fast. I just thought I'd give a quick couple words because I was actually the individual that encouraged Michael to run for Senate. I'm good friends with him. And I'm just saying, this is not negative. I know, Blake, you've done a hell of a job reaching out to him. He's kind of faltered. But I think it's really paramount that we don't kick individuals when they're down or talk down to them in regards to like them leaving. You don't know why they're leaving. There are probably individuals in this room that are disengaged from the debate and having mean-spirited comments as to why they may be leaving. Probably doesn't do great in that regard. So just keep that in mind as we debate. Expel him. I think it's inevitable. He did miss 11 meetings, but just keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you for your debate, Vice President Koger. Is there any further debate in the positive on this piece of legislation? Is there any additional debate in the negative on this piece of legislation? And is there any debate at all? Seeing none, we will now move into a roll call vote.
Alrighty, thanks so much, Blake. Okay, first, Bain.
Yes.
Bannister.
Yes.
Barron.
Yes.
Bellamy.
Yes, by proxy.
Binkley.
Yes, by proxy.
Blood.
Yes.
Booze.
Abstain.
Bray.
Yes.
Callo.
Yes, by proxy.
Chappas.
Yes.
Compton.
Yes.
Croslow.
Abstain.
Cunningham. DeMott.
Yes.
Doc.
Yes.
Dunlap.
Yes.
Ansero.
Yes.
Esslinger. Fields.
Abstain.
Fuss.
Yes.
Gann.
Yes.
Glasscock.
Yes.
Holland.
Yes.
Hotzel.
Abstain by proxy.
Jambunathan.
Yes.
Kidd.
Yes.
Koch.
Yes.
Kramer, Lister,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
Marquez,
Yes.
Mayer,
Yes.
McPhee, Meyer,
Yes.
Middaugh,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Pineda Gomez,
Yes.
Porter,
Yes.
Prester,
Yes by proxy.
Richenberg,
Yes.
Riffle, Rook,
Abstain.
Roth, Solomon,
Yes.
Scharnhorst,
Yes.
Shear,
Yes.
Splekel,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Volgamore,
Yes by proxy.
Wallace,
Yes.
Warren,
Yep.
Willis Jackson,
Yes.
and Willis Reese. Okay. On a vote of 43 to 0 to 5, that legislation is approved.
All right. Thank you all for hanging with me on the par law there. That got a little complicated. So with that, we will now move into final action. First up with Bill 33. And I will go ahead and step forward. All right. No changes have been made for this piece of legislation. Basically, my debate on this, this is a pretty simple change. This is just helps our duties reflect what they currently do. You'll also see a piece of legislation later on in the agenda tonight, which officially assigns me the responsibility of creating the agenda, because this is the only mention of making the agenda in our governing documents. So that'll be on there later, but this just kind of helps to better reflect our roles.
Alrighty, thanks so much for that debate, Blake. Is there any debate in the negative on Bill 33? Is there any debate in the positive on Bill 33? Is there any debate at all? Fantastic. So now we'll proceed into a roll call vote on Bill 33, amendments to the KSU-SGA bylaws regarding parliamentarian responsibilities.
Blood with I move to suspend the rules to approve this bill unanimously.
Is that a second?
Yeah.
All right, it has been moved and seconded to suspend the rules to allow the approval of this unanimously. All those in favor of suspending the rules, please raise your placard. All those opposed, same sign. All right, the yeas have it. The rules will be suspended. I will now seek a motion to approve this unanimously. Chair Porter.
I move to approve Bill 33 unanimously.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve Bill 33 unanimously. Are there any objections? Seeing none, Bill 33 will stand approved unanimously. With that, we will now move on to Bill 34, amendments to the KSU-SGA Constitution concerning College Council ratification. Will the author please move forward?
Alrighty, just a few super small changes. We renumbered the sections in order of what votes we thought were most important. So, like, you get the rules for the Constitution first, then the bylaws, then the statutes. And then the second change was a super small wording bit about the vote requirements for statutes specifically. So we're clear on what body is actually required, but small clerical stuff.
Really quick before we move on to debate, I see that we're having a weird thing happen with our Zoom. Would someone on Zoom mind
I
typing?
already have it taken care of. I'm on my laptop. I asked if they can see and hear properly. They can. I can still see the chat, so.
Cool. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Awesome. With that, you have first right to debate.
Gus.
Thank you, Senator Scharnhorst.
The version that's in the agenda is not what Ops referred back.
Yeah, that's correct. That's why he stated those provisions out loud.
Oh.
Gotcha. Yeah. So those provisions that Nick said are what should be accurately reflected on the agenda. Yeah. With that, first right to debate.
Alrighty, thanks so much, Blake. Yeah, so we've talked a lot about this legislation tangentially tonight because Blake and other speakers are right. This takes now 40 votes in order to pass this chamber and actually enact our changes. But let's talk about the changes themselves. Whether or not we should pass all of our constitutional amendments through college councils. I think there was a time and a place when this was a really great system and we wanted the filter of college councils. I cannot make it more clear that time and place is no longer today. First, I want to observe that like we don't have any engagement with the college councils whatsoever. In many different academic colleges, the college council is completely non-existent. In the College of Arts and Sciences, for example, it's kind of been replaced by the existence of Arts and Sciences ambassadors. In the College of Business, it's been replaced by the Dean Student Advisory Council. In the College of Health and Human Sciences, it straight up doesn't exist at all. There are some colleges that have really great and robust college councils, like the College of Agriculture or the College of, or the Graduate School. But it is not a system that represents all colleges equally, and therefore it makes it really challenging for us to go to them for any type of approval. In fact, in the College of Health and Human Sciences, they've tried year after year after year to establish this system, and every single year it's fallen apart. We have to reckon with the fact that this system simply cannot be relied upon. When I reached out to them to like run by our previous constitutional amendments, after months and weeks, out of 9 total people that could have gotten back to me with an answer on whether or not they supported our constitutional amendments, I had a response from 1, which to me is pretty indicative that we just can't continue with this system. It wastes our time. Not only does it waste, you know, our caucus time trying to like get things done in Senate, it puts all of our amendments on an unnecessary 6-week delay that does nothing to serve our body. What happened a few weeks ago is that we just gave a rubber stamp to what we already decided we wanted many, many, many months before. It is a completely worthless and wasteful system to send it to people that are never going to respond to us. Now, finally, I want to comfort some fears about whether or not we're meeting enough approval, whether we're being too rash or too radical about these changes. That's completely understandable. When we're making constitutional changes, we want to be as thorough and as careful as possible. But in my personal opinion, a 3/4 vote threshold of all senators selected and qualified is an extremely high burden. That's why, like Blake was so intense on that part of the debate of special ordering earlier tonight. That's not just the people that are in this room. That is every single senator that we have sworn in that we need to have 75% support of. In this case, that's 40 votes. Right here tonight, we have about 43 senators. And of course, we have a few acting as proxies. But to me, that's an incredibly high amount of support that any piece of legislation must have in order to achieve going into ratification in the first place. So it has to be relatively uncontroversial to ever succeed as a constitutional amendment, and that makes college council approval simply not necessary. So at the end of the day, we're knocking at a door to a house when no one is home at all. It is a waste of our time. We have enough support when we pass it through Senate. Make our system simpler. Vote yes.
All right. Thank you for your debate, Speaker Pro Tem Saya. Is there any debate in the negative? Senator Booz.
All right. Hi, everyone. Today, my job is to convince you to vote no. And I think that it's important in several different ways that we keep this bits involved. The previous speaker mentioned that we're knocking on a house with nobody there. But if we stop knocking, nobody's ever going to end up in that house either. And so, you know, you don't get engagement unless you actually try to engage. Now, I believe that these bits of and pieces and clauses are supported by history and contain 2 independently valuable principles as well, that delays are actually independently valuable for things that are very, very important to us, and that review from others, external review, is also independently valuable. First, I want to start with a little bit of an overview of the history. So in 1971, yes, that's how far back I'm going, the Constitutional Revision Committee submitted and Student Senate approved an overhaul to the Constitution and bylaws. It had very, very similar wording to what we have today. Among other oddities, though, like the fact that the president of the vice president was the president of the Senate, which is kind of weird. It also had the almost exact same wording as the wording we have in our Constitution today. A 3/4 majority required to pass amendments, and it had to be ratified through referendum or via the college councils. This remains almost exactly the same for like almost 40 years, while the rest of the Constitution changes around it There's minor changes in 1996, but the real big change is 1998 when it actually, people tried to add a 1-year deadline to the actual requirements, and that actually failed, adding a 1-year deadline. It's only in 2008 that we added a 6-month deadline, and over the past couple of years, we've reined it in further and further. So over time, that went from 6 months to 6 weeks, for instance, in 2016. And then in 2019, a bill that I wrote passed unanimously through Student Senate, which not only changed some of the wording and made sure that college councils were notified of the amendment within 1 week of its passage, something which I'm not entirely sure we've completely done, but also it removed the ability for amendments to be ratified with no one voting for them, because in prior years, we had a rule that if nobody voted within 6 weeks, that was actually treated as a vote for the amendment. And that passed unanimously in 2019. But yet this bill overturns that, and it goes to even further than that by removing any oversight at all. And so as far back as 1971 and as recently as 2019, I believe the Student Senate upholds the use of college councils even when some of them don't exist. And I think that history, like overall historically, we would keep them. The other thing is that I think that both delays and review from others is independently valuable. You know, for instance, like we're here all night, like we're kind of in a bit of a bubble. Like, you know, this debate is probably an example of that. But there are other things in the Constitution, like, you know, who is a member of SGA or who is a student senator or stuff like that, where we might have different opinions than our other people in SGA or other people that are students. And I think that having other people review our work helps catch our blind spots. The second thing is that I also think some level of delays are actually valuable when we're making changes to our basic constitutional framework. That allows us to do the same thing as other people, as in wait, think about it, and review our actual time. Review our actual ideas and see if the constitutional amendments that we passed are matching up to them. The previous speaker said that was a rubber stamp, but in certain situations, that actually could be really important if we pass something that we later decide is a horrible idea, and that is possible. So, I mean, in conclusion, like, I believe history supports keeping this. Like, this has stayed virtually the same for a very long time, and I believe that review from others and some level of a delay is instrumentally and independently valuable. And I also believe that the way to spur engagement isn't by removing the sections that mandate that we engage with the community. And so, like, maybe it's doing some more work contacting the groups that currently exist. Maybe it's, if you're in that college, founding new ones. That's hard, but we weren't elected to this job to do the easy things. And so,
And I'm sorry, Speaker, but your time has expired.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Is there a motion to extend? All right. Caucus Leader Lynn.
I move to extend the speaker's time by a minute.
Okay, sure.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to extend the speaker's time by a minute. Andrew, you have 1 more minute.
Yeah, so yeah, I mentioned that we weren't really, we weren't elected to do the easy things. I might support an amendment that would result in one of those principles being upheld. I'm not entirely sure, if, like, depending on what it is, like, I may or may not support it, but I think those principles are important overall. So, like, overall, I can't vote no. I can't vote yes, excuse me, in good conscience on this legislation, and I would ask you to vote no as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your debate, Senator Booz. Is there any additional debate in the positive on this bill? Chair Jambunathan.
There is an amendment on the floor from Blood.
Okay, there is an amendment by Senator Blood, and we have that amendment if we want to screen share that. So the amendment is as follows. This strikes lines 21 through 25, which are the last two whereas clauses, and then amends section 2. It essentially adds that in section 902 that it's a 3/4 majority of approval by Student Senate, and it has to be ratified by a 2/3 majority of KSU SGA members voting in the SGA general election is the amendment. So this essentially our constitutional amendments would have to be ratified during the general election each year. So with that, an amendment does require a second in order to be considered. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, the amendment has been moved and seconded. With that, Senator Blood, you have first rights to debate on the amendment.
Yeah, can you guys hear me in the chamber right now too? I know things have been a little messed with the Zoom.
Yep, you're good, Brian.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, so I just really wanted to use this to address a lot of the concerns that previous speakers have made with our ratification process for constitutional amendments. The Constitution, while we've changed it a lot this year, really shouldn't be something that we're continually changing, and that extra time is extremely valuable. Many organizations have processes to increase the time allowed for their constitutional amendments. In fact, Robert's Rules of Order, which we use fairly regularly here, recommends that if you don't have an amendment process already written out, that 2/3 of your members ratify this at, say, your annual meeting, such as our annual SGA election. And the fact is, here, this would allow us to have that amendment done where all members of KSU SGA, all students here at Kansas State can make that amendment. And I find that to be extremely valuable to have that time, have that second look, and allow the student organizations and the college caucuses, or college councils that may not exist right now, and maybe that empty room that we're knocking on, we might not be able to reach them, but we can reach students. And this is important for us to look at, to allow for our Constitution to still remain with the integrity. It would then also allow for the Senate Operations Committee to define different rules for how that process would go throughout the elections process, and would allow different bills to be grouped together so that we're not passing constitutional amendments every single week or even multiple constitutional amendments, but really looking at the Constitution as that firm document that lays the base and the foreground for all of our bills and rules overall. And so I find it really important that we have that second check and that we allow all members of the university to really look over that and make that determination if this is something that should change the bedrock of our institution.
All right, thank you for your debate, Senator Blood. I'll now be seeking debate in the negative. Chair Richenberg, I had you first.
Yeah, okay, so I appreciate what this amendment is trying to do, but I find two fairly big issues with it. One being, is the student population even going to look over these things? If, yes, like their vote does matter, but also an educated vote matters as well. And so if students are voting on important bills that they probably haven't read, probably don't understand, that's a big issue. Two, that's every year things are getting ratified, and that's another big issue. For example, last semester we passed the credit hour requirement for student senators. If that was passed every year, that's a whole year of students who maybe are not a full-time student that can't vote and can't be a senator or be a part of SGA because of that. And so I think it's really important that we don't make it every year, because that's a lot of lost opportunities for the things we're passing, because the things we do pass are important and should be in place very quickly and very shortly after we have voted on them. That's it.
All right, thank you for your debate, Chair Richenberg. Chair Long.
Point of information. So is this 2/3 of KSU SGA people voting in the next election, or 2/3 of all the election?
So KSU SGA means any student paying the student services fee. So every single student on this campus is a member of KSU SGA that pays the student services fee. Senator Bannister.
Also, point of information, I do believe that when we add a question during the general election, we are charged extra for calling that question in cases. I don't know if anyone remembers what that amount was, but we discussed that with the elections reform bills.
Interesting. I'm not actually 100% sure on that.
You definitely should. I'm not sure about that. Like, there should be ways to add, like, add a question. The extra charge with as an incident not voting was because we were adding a new algorithm for calculating votes, not because we were adding new questions.
Gotcha. Senator Glasscock, did you have one? Okay. All right. With that, I will now seek debate in the positive on the proposed amendment. I will now seek additional debate in the negative on the proposed amendment. Senator Glasscock.
Just wanted to quickly add some input here as to why I would caution against voting for this amendment. I think there are a couple of important reasons. One, there was a time in the past in which constitutional amendments, we had to wait until the start of the next term for them to take effect. I think that as a consequence of this amendment, we would have to return to that previous way of doing things, which a previous body of Student Senate found unnecessary and found to delay kind of the process of how we approach constitutional amendments. I think that there are other problems inherent to adding this into the general elections process in terms of engagement. I think that one advantage of our having a form of a republic, representation, student senate, in the sense that we represent the student body, means that we have the obligation and also can give the grace to the entire student body to be able to be invested in issues that they don't really have to care about. I think that there are a lot of constitutional amendments that most of the student body would never really care about and wouldn't really ever have a reason to care about. And I think that we can then be invested in those issues on their behalf. And I think that for that reason, our body voting on them rather than the entire student body voting on them is more judicious and more expedient. And furthermore, I think that adding in extra referendum issues for people to be concerned with and have the pressure of researching for the general election would have the potential possibility of reducing engagement in those elections as well. So those are my arguments. Thank you.
Thank you for your debate, Senator Glasscock. Is there any additional debate in the positive of this amendment? Is there any additional debate in the negative for this amendment? Last call for debate on this amendment. Seeing none, we will now move into a hand vote on the amendment. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. All right, the nays have it. This amendment will fail. So with that, we will go ahead and return to debate on the initial piece of legislation. Chair Jambunathan, I had you with the next debate in the positive.
Guys, I just wrote this, so don't think too hard about it. Or think very hard about it. Actually, that's the message I want to send. Hello. I definitely want to address past speakers' concerns. I don't want to dismiss the importance that college councils have had in the past. I recognize that. I appreciate the history they've had with us, but I just want to talk about how I've had firsthand experiences with college councils this year and know that it is a broken system. Previous speakers have talked about this. HHS doesn't have a college council. Arts and Sciences doesn't. Business kind of does, but I'm not entirely sure what their responsibilities are. And I definitely want to echo that we don't, as SGA, have engagement with college councils that much anymore. The most engagement comes through OCAC with open house funding, and the engagement is abysmal, I should say. I've reached out to all the college council leaders that I could find the information for, haven't heard back from any of them. So like previous speakers have said, it is not a great avenue for communication. And because of the lack of engagement between college councils and SGA, I just want to remind you all that how are they supposed to know what constitutional changes mean for us as a body if we're just throwing this at them? They could blindly just be like, yeah, sure, sounds fine, and not really know what the implications of those are for us. And I don't want to dismiss that there is value in a review process to our constitutional changes. I recognize that, but this is just not the avenue to do it because how are they supposed to know that this is a good review for us? That's all that I have.
All right. Thank you for your debate, Chair Jambunathan. Is there any further debate in the negative on on this piece of legislation? Senator Insero.
Never spoken in front of this body before. Nice. We've got a lot of people speaking today. It's cool.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nathan Insero. I'm senator from the grad school. I haven't spoken in front of this body before. This is my first semester. But I do have some thoughts on this this bill. And first of all, that's more hands make better work. As a previous speaker said, specifically Booze, it's important to get more hands on the work that we do. And that's an underlying principle of the republics that are set up in the way SGA is. The more people who get to look at what we do, and the more people who are really plugged in to these constitutional amendments, the better for our work. Second, just because someone isn't using their right to review our work isn't a good enough reason to take away that power. It's not a good enough reason to just, well, I guess what I'm trying to say is we tried to do that to the faculty senate, and it failed because those checks and balances are locked into our Constitution for a very good reason. And so it's not, just because they aren't there to, I guess, answer the metaphorical knock on the door isn't a good enough reason for a power grab like this. And then in the case of the grad school, GSC is bigger and more public facing than SGA. If students have an issue with something, they're going to likely turn to GSC, not us, to give that feedback. It may not be right now, but in the future, GSC or your college council could want to weigh in on something, and we shouldn't remove that opportunity from our constituents. And that's all I've got. I rest.
That'll work. Thank you for your debate, Senator Insero. I'll now seek additional debate in the positive. Chair Richenberg.
If I would have known that I was speaking a lot today, I would have dressed better. But anyways, I don't really want to, repeat everything that a lot of previous speakers have said, but I do want to talk on something that I've seen in past legislations that we have talked about, and it's this idea that just because we've had something in place for a while now that it shouldn't change. I think we need to change as things go. And I think it's important that throughout the years we don't have this mentality of, well, we've had this for a couple of years, so let's keep it. It's been here for a while. Because let's be honest, if we did that our entire lives, our world would be a hot mess. So we need to change, our governing documents need to change as our operations are changing. So just something to think about. I know that probably wasn't super important, but it's something that I've seen a lot this semester. Is just because something's been something for a while doesn't mean that it shouldn't change. But yeah.
Thank you for your debate, Marta. Is there any additional debate in the negative on this piece of legislation? Senator Bannister.
Senator Bannister, your local Where's Waldo. I really think I feel like I bear a resemblance right now. I really think that it's important to vote negative on this to give us the opportunity to explore other avenues with changing the college council system, because I think currently this legislation does have merits to it because it's such a disjointed system that has very little consistency across the colleges. But I think there's a further opportunity here to reach out to our college partners and to craft legislation or a resolution that would ask for a more standardized procedure about how we operate college councils so that they can become functioning political units within our university and allow for more access and representation to our students. So I just think that that would be a potential better avenue in the future for us to explore those different possibilities than to take this step immediately. I think if colleges are unreceptive of that, if we find there's no actual progress that can be made, that then at that point we should go ahead and take these steps, because the current system is incoherent, is not representative, and is not functional. but I don't believe that we should be taking this step at this time.
Thank you for your debate, Will. Is there any additional debate in the positive? Caucus Leader Spleagle.
Okay, so similar to Durga, I just kind of wrote some basic notes down. But a couple things that I wanted to reiterate that Nick said. First of all, it's really hard to even get in contact with any of our college councils, especially because we don't even know most colleges have a college council, or if they do, we don't even have direct contacts. And that's something that Durga also talked about when she was reaching out about open house funding. She doesn't even have good contacts to let them know about how to get funding for open house, which is how we deal with engagement, recruitment for the college. That's something that's really important. And as somebody who's not only a senator in the College of Business, but also the president of the Dean Student Advisory Council for the College of Business, I was the only one that Nick said that actually was able to communicate back, because we do have a set council. However, that's something that our college specifically, our council is made up of our senators as well. We do have other presidents of the different organizations, but our senators are also a really big part of that. And I think that we, as college senators, we were nominated to represent the student voices. We can't always have every single student voice on every single piece of legislation, commendation, amendment, whatever it may be. We were the ones who were elected and put in charge of these kind of different decisions. So I think it also kind of helps to kind of reiterate the fact that even though, yes, I wish that the college council setup was definitely more organized and there was a better way of communication. I think that right now, because of the way that it's not organized and we don't have that good flow of communication, that this is something that's very necessary in order for everything to continue to be streamlined and for changes to be made.
Thank you for your debate, Caucus Leader Spleagle. Is there any additional debate in the negative on this piece of legislation? Is there any additional debate in the positive? Senator Scharnhorst.
Okay, well, first I'd like to remind everybody that the reason that this is even on the floor is because some people believe that the 6-week delay after we do pass constitutional amendments is problematic. And that's mostly because the kinds of constitutional amendments we pass are not big things like this. In fact, this is the second of all of the constitutional amendments since we returned from the summer that I would say are in any way controversial. So that is to say, most of what we put on the floor as far as constitutional amendments are tiny changes, like the grammatical ones that I submitted a while ago. And then second, I think that the situation with college councils represents the endemic problem that we have at K-State, where students are disengaged with all of our shared governance. I think the Graduate Student Council is a great example of how that can be fixed, but I don't think that voting this bill down affirms that there's a problem in any way whatsoever. In fact, voting yes does say, hey, we recognize that there's a problem with college councils, and we're going to continue to work on it. We should take the Graduate Student Council as an example of how we can improve our shared governance. But until we do that, this absolutely improves our process. And so you should vote yes to improve the process and to affirm that there is a problem, and that the rest of this term and in future terms, we will try to fix the broken system of college councils and generally the problem of disconnect between students and shared governance.
Thank you for your debate, Gus. Is there any additional debate in the negative on this piece of legislation? Is there any additional debate in the
negative from Croslow?
Negative from Croslow. Billy, you have the floor.
Thanks, Blake. Previous speakers have offered a couple of examples, and they've used the Grad Student Council. I'm a huge fan of the Grad Student Council. I think everyone in this body understands that and recognizes it. That said, it does have some problems. And one of the ways that I'm able to help it is when these amendments come, I can offer it as one of the other things that the grad students need to be involved in. The previous speaker mentioned the system is broken. and we should just, scrap it, and maybe we'll pick it up and create a better system later. I'm not sure that would ever happen. I can see the scrapping part. It's right in front of us. I don't see the build it better bill yet. I don't see how we're going to improve that. This makes it a little tougher for those of us that do have robust councils to keep them engaged. It's a constant struggle. It's not accidental that the Grad Student Council has become slightly more engaged with SGA as of late. There have been a lot of people active in making that occur. This would undercut those efforts there and would certainly put a stake in any efforts to reinvigorate a college council in any place that doesn't have one or an active one. So I'd urge you to not take this into consideration. I'd urge you to vote no on this.
Thank you for your debate, Billy. Is there any additional debate in the positive? Speaker Pro Tem Saya.
Alrighty, thanks so much, Blake. This debate is going to be relatively brief. There are a lot of arguments on either side of the legislation. I think a lot of you have probably already made up your minds, and there is merit to both sides of the argument. I think regardless of where you fall on whether or not it would be a good thing to not ratify our constitutional amendments by College Council, you should vote yes anyway. Here's why. If I'm right, if the affirmation is right, that the college councils are not worth bargaining with, that they are a waste of our time, then we're going to send this to them and they will completely ignore it. This, like any other constitutional amendment, has to be ratified by college councils in the first place. So they get the final say, not us, on whether or not this goes into place. But let's say that you are on the negative here. Now is your chance to prove it. Say yes to this legislation, send this legislation to the college councils, and give them the chance to rebuild our relationship, to give another chance, like to try to reconcile what they have clearly ignored in the past. Ultimately, vote yes either way.
Thank you for your debate, Speaker Pro Tem Saya. Is there any additional debate in the negative on this piece of legislation? Is there any additional debate in the positive on this piece of legislation? Is there any debate at all? Senator Booz, is this negative?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I wanted to come up here and address a couple of things from the previous speakers. First, one previous speaker mentioned that we should change as things go on, and I definitely agree in a lot of situations that we should consider changing if things go on. But there is a saying or an idea called Chesterton's fence, which is proposed by the British theorist, philosopher, theologian G.K. Chesterton, which is basically that you shouldn't tear something down unless you know why it's there. And like once you can explain why it's there, then you can tear it down. And I definitely think that I've articulated why I believe that this system exists and why we should continue to have this sort of system and continue to invest in rebuilding. And so, it's definitely up to you to decide what each way, but I definitely think that there should be, especially in constitutional matters, a bias towards not replacing things or not changing things, especially if it has a lot of history behind it. And so I disagree with that assertion overall. The other thing is, another speaker said that voting a yes on this piece of legislation affirms that there is a problem and that we will try to fix it. And like another previous speaker, I don't see exactly what the link is there. I think that voting yes on this doesn't guarantee that we do anything to solve the problem other than cutting it out of our Constitution. And I ultimately think that the hard route is the route that leaves it in, the route that says explicitly that we recommit to doing this, and that we recommit to sharing this power with them. And so I disagree. I think voting no is the real action that says, hey, we still have a problem, and we're keeping this in, but we're going to work on fixing it. And then finally, I've been trying to consider how to respond to the previous speaker's double bind ever since Senate Operations. And ultimately, I think that the right call here is to vote what your conscience. Don't vote based on what you believe other people will do, including the people in the college councils. Vote instead based on what you think is the better choice. And ultimately, I think the better choice is the hard one, not the one that is voting yes in order for other people to vote no. So thank you.
Thank you for your debate, Senator Booz. Is there any additional debate in the positive on this legislation? Senator Bain.
Hi, right now, I'm actually both in SGA and in the Grad Student Council. And I've actually had this conversation with both Nick and Blake because there has been a little bit of confusion with why some of the legislation is being sent to the college councils. And I'll agree with Caucus leader Splekel when she was saying that we were all elected for a reason. We represent the students in our colleges. And I will say that when we debate and when we have these conversations, we should be bringing the concerns of those colleges and those college councils to this room. So we should be making decisions when we're voting on what's best for the student body and the people that we represent. Also, I will say that sending a lot of these things to, or all these pieces of legislation to the college caucuses does create some confusion. One, because, for example, the Grad Student Council, when they receive these, it doesn't change their bylaws. It doesn't change necessarily their goings on. And I'll give you an example of this. I know it was last semester, I don't know if it was last term, we voted to change the requirements for students when they want to be a senator. And we specifically looked at graduate senators, and they have a different credit requirement for what they have to be enrolled in order to be a senator. And we sit kind of in a different situation because lots of reasons. So they sent the legislation to the college council, and the college council was like, great, what do you want us to do with this? Like, good for you. So it didn't change anything that they did. And then actually, in my position, it created more confusion because then I had to explain, like, well, this is their bylaws, their constitution, not the GSC's. And so trying to explain to them what the difference between GSC and SGA is like, anyway, like beating my head against the wall, but it's fine. We'll get there. So I guess my point is we represent the students that we represent. We should bring their concerns to this table. What we vote on here, they should understand and they should know about. But I don't think what we do here necessarily influences their day-to-day. It should be our responsibility to get that information back to them. The GSC, I think it's nice that we all use GSC when it's convenient to us, even though we didn't do that in the last debate, but that's still bitter about that, it's fine. So that's my explanation. I don't know whether that's positive or negative. I think it creates more confusion. I think we all represent the people we represent, and I guess that's all I have to say because now I'm talking in circles.
Awesome, thank you for your debate, Laura. Is there any additional debate in the negative on this piece of legislation? Is there any further debate in the positive on Bill 34?
Compton with debate in the positive.
Excellent. All right. Pardon me. I will have to shear this down a little bit. This was a lot of the points I was going to make have been made. Very spirited debate on both the positive and negative side, which is very good. I like to see it. So the primary thing with this that I would argue is that I think many of the previous speakers in the negative are underestimating the seriousness of this current situation. In relation to the knocking on the house analogy, I could almost argue that we are kicking rubble at this point in terms of how much response time that we're getting from many of the college caucuses. Obviously, numerous of the college caucuses, including the Grad Student College Caucus, have shown a lot of activity, but for the most part, it has been complete and utter dysfunction all the way through. And in my opinion, it's important for us as a body to have somewhat of a sense of self-advocacy in terms of making sure that we are working, drawing that line in terms of being advocative for these outside groups like the college councils, but also making sure that we are able to get our legislative items done. And I think that as it stands, the system is a very large impedance to that. previous speakers have mentioned that it would be unfeasible for the college caucus system to be like reworked should we dismantle it, at least in terms of our relationships with it in this manner. I disagree with that to an extent that I think in part of that advocacy thing, we need to make sure that we're pulling away, and the college caucuses themselves also have a bit of a responsibility if they want to participate in this process to make sure that they're being team players as well. And there's clearly models out there in some of the caucuses that demonstrate that that can be done. But for now, I don't see that in the majority, and it's just been causing too much dysfunction to really justify in any meaningful sense moving forward. So with that in mind, I would strongly encourage everyone to vote yes on this bill. I just think it is important for us as a body to make sure that we're getting our own items and goals forward. And I also wouldn't argue that this is necessarily the easy way out, but it could potentially be one of the only ways out that we have at the moment before this falls into a state of complacency again, and we're just back in the hole that we're almost out of. Thank you.
Thank you for your debate, Tommy. Is there any additional debate in the negative on this piece of legislation? I'll now seek any additional debate in the positive. Last call for debate on Bill 34. Seeing none, we will now move into a roll call vote.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Blake. First, Bain.
No.
Bannister.
No.
Barron.
Yes.
Bellamy.
Yes, by proxy.
Binkley. Blood.
No.
Booze.
No.
Bray.
Yes.
Kahlo.
No, by proxy.
Chappas.
Yes.
Compton.
Yes.
Croslow.
No.
DeMott.
Pass.
Doc.
Yes.
Dunlap.
Yes.
Ansero.
No.
Esslinger. Fields.
Abstain.
Fuss.
Yes.
Gann.
Yes.
Glasscock.
Yes.
Holland.
Yes.
Hotzel.
Yes, by proxy.
Jambanathan.
Yes.
Kidd.
No.
Koch.
Yes.
Kramer. Lister.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Lynn.
Yes.
Marquez.
No.
Mayer.
Yes.
McPhee. Meyer.
Yes.
Middaugh.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Pineda Gomez.
Yes.
Porter.
Yes.
Prester.
Yes, by proxy.
Richenberg.
Yes.
Riffle.
Yes.
Riffle.
Yes.
Rook. Salmon.
Yes.
Scharnhorst.
Yes.
Shear.
Yes.
Spleakle.
Yes.
Stout.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vogelmore.
Yes, by proxy.
Wallace.
Yes.
Warren.
Yes.
Jackson Willis.
Yes.
And Reese Willis. Now moving back to our pass, Allie.
Yes.
Okay. On a vote of 38 to 8 to 1, that bill is not approved.
Alrighty. With that, we will now move to Bill 35, amendments to the KSU SGA elections regulations to increase the spending limit. Will the author please come forward? Have any changes been made?
No changes have been made.
Seeing none, you have first rights to debate.
All right, I spent all of my effort on my previous debates, so I have no plans for this. So really, it's just like based on the whereas clauses, you already have the idea of what the argument would be. Like overall, these changes basically align the amount that candidates can accept from students at K-State to just a bit above the CPI inflation level. There was some interest last week in maybe automatically indexing that. We ultimately did not do that because one, that it's beneficial to have round numbers, and two, I think it's better that to have SGA to be able to to have to actually consider this and consider what these changes would actually do. And so like overall, this is still increasing it to 30 and 10. And this will be better because then you can fundraise a little bit more from SGA, from other SGA members or students at K-State. And in particular, when I was drafting this, I was thinking of my Senate campaign where it felt really weird to ask for only $5 from people because like the idea is like, what would $5 do? But with $10, that would be a substantial increase. I don't know how much we would have asked for anyway, or if we would have even fundraised because we didn't spend too much. But you know, I overall think that this is a better change, and would ask you to vote yes.
All right, thank you for your debate, Senator Booz. Is there any debate in the negative on Bill 35? Is there any additional debate in the positive on Bill 35? Is there any debate at all on Bill 35? Seeing none, we will now move to a roll call vote.
Sorry about that. Alrighty, roll call vote on Bill 35. Bain.
Yes.
Bannister.
Yes.
Barron.
Yes.
Bellamy.
Yes, by proxy.
Binkley.
Yes, by proxy.
Blood.
Yes.
Booz.
Yes.
Bray.
Yes.
Kahlo.
Yes, by proxy.
Chapas.
Yes.
Compton.
Yes.
Croslow.
Yes.
DeMott.
Yes.
Doc.
Yes.
Dunlap.
Yes.
Ansero.
Yes.
Esslinger. Fields.
Yes.
Fuss.
Yes.
Gann.
Yes.
Glasscock.
Yes.
Holland.
Yes.
Hotzel.
Yes.
Jambunathan.
Yes.
Kidd.
Yes.
Koch.
Yes.
Kramer. Lister.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Lynn.
Yes.
Marquez.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes.
McPhee. Meyer.
Yes.
Middaugh. Nelson.
Yes.
Pineda Gomez.
Yes.
Porter.
Yes.
Prester.
Yes, by proxy.
Richenberg.
Yes.
Riffle.
Yes.
Rook. Solomon.
Yes.
Scharnhorst.
Yes.
Shear. Splekel.
Yes.
Stout.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vogelmore.
Yes.
Wallace.
Yes.
Warren.
Yeah.
Willis Jackson.
Yes.
And Willis Reese. All right, on a vote of 48 to 0, that bill is approved.
All righty, we will now move to Bill 36. Will the author please come forward? All right, have any changes been made?
Yes. So a couple of sponsors added, and then we actually added in the Be It Enacted section 1 a list of the formal guidelines that are given to us by the Board of Regents. We just felt that that would be beneficial to have kind of in the same spot as the other guidelines that we were following.
All right, thank you very much. First right, Senator Booz.
On line 52, there's an O groups. I think that's probably
Or groups of students.
Yeah.
That's it.
Cool.
Thank you for that. With that, you have first rights to debate.
Okay, awesome. So a few weeks ago, the Educational Opportunity Fund Committee finished up our process for funding things like scholarships, graduate assistantships, and other programs that are aiding our students. While sitting on that committee for fiscal year 2023 funding, I realized that I had some really big concerns with how we were making those decisions for which groups the committee did or did not fund. And this wasn't any fault of the committee, it was just because of how we were legislated to make those decisions. The current statutes determine that EOF decisions are based on a couple of informal guidelines and then the formal guidelines given to us by the Board of Regents. The informal guidelines include giving priority to groups that have received funding in the past and those that have definite and predictable outcomes. My concerns about these informal guidelines really stem from an equity standpoint and making sure that the committee reviews its applications on an equal playing field for all groups. Just because a group has been funded for years and years doesn't necessarily mean that they're providing more value to the student body than any new group could.
However, if preference is always being given to the groups that have been funded before, that simply just does not allow new groups to be funded and considered during committee time. Had the committee funded all of our applicants that had been previously funded to their full amount, we would have been almost $40,000 over our budget. That fact makes it really, really difficult for us to justify giving the same amount of time or review for any new group that is trying to apply for funding through EOF. My goal with this legislation is to make sure that our committee is giving adequate review to every single group that requests funding. This may mean that the committee has some tougher decisions to make, but those are judgment calls that I really have every single bit of faith in our students to make. Giving ourselves easier decisions to make is not a good enough reason to continue using a process that is inherently exclusionary. And so for those reasons, I urge you to vote yes.
Thank you for your debate, Caucus Leader Lynn. Is there any debate in the negative on this bill? Senator Bannister.
So I would just like to point out that the reason why preference is given to previously funded positions is because how hard it is to plan the expenses for these organizations and for other people around them, and especially when it regards employment. I know this is personally kind of biased to me, but as I have a family member who does receive these funds, but what has been communicated to me is already hard enough to plan around staffing expenses and to know who you can keep on in your office, especially because a lot of this can support long-term expenses when we have legislative process as it is now. So I think the clauses that are currently in it that say that our guidance should be to fund current positions is good because it allows more predictability on the part of planning and managing our student organizations. And the people who receive these grants currently are the leaders of inclusivity on campus. So it's not like we are funding like the academic backwater of KSU. We're funding the organizations that are currently driving our involvement with first generation students who are underprivileged. And it makes it really hard because KSU doesn't have centralized funding for a lot of these programs for them to be able to operate. And that's not something that's our fault, that's something of just how K-State's set up in general's fault. But given the situation that we're in, I think it's really pertinent that we keep the practice of giving priority to already funded positions, just because it makes it possible to do future planning for those organizations.
All right, thank you for your debate, Senator Bannister. Is there any debate in the positive? Chair Long.
Good evening, all. Just to clear up a couple of concerns, possibly. This is not Operation Deploy the Vice President with a hacksaw to take out EOF from start from the beginning again. That is not the plan here. This is just for us to allow us, I say us, I was on EOF as well in case you didn't know, allow the committee members of EOF to go through it with a little more finesse and look at it from a more objective standpoint of do they still offer the same benefit to the student body that they did when they were funded 50 years ago. That was the issue with a lot of applications we received, was we said, oh, they've been funded since 1971, we can look at that one less, which is not how it's supposed to work. Additionally, previous speakers brought up that these funds go towards the forefront of inclusivity to the people that are here, the first generation students and stuff. Yes, and I wish we could have funded them more, but we couldn't because we directed those funds towards organizations that have been here for longer. We want to be funding new and better things and not be held up by organizations that no longer provide the same benefit they did back in the 70s. Thank you.
Thank you for your debate, Chair Long. Is there additional debate in the negative? Okay.
Could I get, what's the oldest EOF program that we're still funding?
like the actual data.
I do not know the oldest EOF program we are funding is. Cameron, do you know the oldest one we're funding?
Not off the top of my head. I could probably dive into some stuff.
I believe it is the child care subsidies,
I know
but
that
I'm
is an
not
older
100%
one, yes.
sure.
Yeah. I mean, I was just wondering, since you were mentioning 50 years ago, and I was like, I might as well ask.
The date I recall is 1971. And that
There
might,
are ones from the 70s, like that is a fact. I don't know what the oldest one is.
Okay, thanks.
And then we have a request for information from Senator Blood that says, since line 71 says federal minimum wage, would that mean that if Kansas raised their minimum wage, we would have to pay people under the minimum wage of our state?
Good question.
that is, I'll direct that towards Cameron as the chair.
I'm pretty sure it would follow, like,
as far as I'm aware,
yeah,
Cameron.
federal minimum wage. We wouldn't be able to pay someone less.
Yeah, it would follow the minimum wage as far as I'm aware.
Are there any, thank you for your debate, Chair Long. Is there any additional debate in the negative on this piece of legislation? Is there any additional debate in the positive on this bill?
Debate in the positive from Kraslow.
Thank you.
Thanks. Wow, I'm speaking a lot tonight. I'm moved by the previous speakers and the sponsors of this legislation in their call for the flexibility to reevaluate programs in light of the current set of circumstances. I'm not, unmoved by the idea of offering consistency and maybe privileging certain programs that have been voted on before. But I don't think we should be bound by the hand of SGA members who were in this body, before many of us here were born. Although in the 70s I was around. I would urge us to vote yes on this so that we can offer that flexibility to our team that works on these EOF considerations and allow them to not be bound by those old SGA members who've long since moved on and might not understand or appreciate the current circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you for your debate, Senator Kraslow. Is there any additional debate in the negative on this piece of legislation? Is there any further debate in the positive on this piece of legislation? And is there any debate at all? Seeing none, we will now move into a roll call vote.
Alrighty, thanks so much, Blake. First, Bain.
Yes.
Bannister.
No.
Barron.
Yes.
Bellamy.
Yes, by proxy.
Binkley.
Yes, by proxy.
Blood.
No.
Booze.
Pass.
Bray.
Yes.
Kahlo.
No by proxy.
Chappas.
Yes.
Compton.
Yes.
Kraslow.
Yes.
DeMott.
Yes.
Doc.
Yes.
Dunlap.
Yes.
Ansero.
Yes.
Esslinger. Fields.
Yes.
Fuss.
Yes.
Gann.
Yes.
Glasscock.
Yes.
Holland.
Yes.
Hotzel.
Yes, by proxy.
Jambunathan.
Yes.
Kidd.
Pass.
Koch.
Pass.
Kramer. Lister.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Lynn.
Yes.
Marquez.
No.
Mayer.
Yes.
McPhee. Meyer.
Yes.
Middaugh.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Yes.
Pineda Gomez. Porter.
Yes.
Prester.
Yes, by proxy.
Richenberg.
Yeah.
Riffle.
Yes.
Rook. Salmon.
Yes.
Scharnhorst.
Yes.
Shear. Spleagle.
No.
Stout.
No.
Thomas.
Yes.
Volgamore.
No.
Wallace.
Yes.
Warren.
No.
Willis Jackson.
Yes.
Willis Reese. Alrighty, circling back to proxies. Booze.
Yes.
Kidd.
Yes.
Koch.
No.
Alrighty, is there anyone who passed and I did not call? Fantastic. On a vote of 39 to 9 to 0, that legislation is approved.
Alrighty, that wraps up our voting for the night. So we will now move into introduction of allocations. Is there a motion to consider the allocations? Chair Long.
I move to consider the allocations.
Seconded.
It has been moved and seconded to consider the allocations. With that, first up, Bill 37, we have the fiscal year 2022 on-campus allocation to the American Choral Directors Association. They are requesting $1,575, recommended $1,500. Bill 38, we have the fiscal year 2022 travel allocation to the Hispanic American Leadership Organization. They have requested $1,000 and are recommended $1,000. And then Bill 39, the FY 2022 travel allocation to On the Spot Improv. They requested $2,246 and were recommended $1,000 on that. Are there any questions or corrections? Senator Booz.
Yeah, I feel like I should know this, but is on-campus or travel allowed to fund advertising?
Excellent question. Durga.
On campus specifically will fund like promotion and advertising.
Okay. Can I get a follow-up?
Granted.
Then, so it looks like you didn't fund the advertising for the American Choral Directors. Could you explain just a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Like I said, on campus, we usually do fund promotions. We invite whoever's requesting funds to come present to us, and my committee as a whole just thought that they didn't make a great argument for why they're requesting funds for advertising. Like they didn't have any specifics for us, or like, what's the word? Like specific charges of like what things would cost. So we just decided to pass on that.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
All right, any further questions or corrections on the allocations? Seeing none, we will now move to introduction of legislation for the night. Is there a motion to consider Bill 40? Chair Salmon.
I move to consider Bill 40.
Seconded.
It has been moved and seconded to consider Bill 40. Will the author please come forward?
So I hate how the numbering works because I'm up for 2, and then you're up, and then I'm up for 1 more.
So, so this is Bill 212240, amendments to the KSU-SGA bylaws regarding reapportionment of student senate. It's part of a 3-bill package, so feel free to ask me questions on any of them, I guess. So by me, sponsored by the Senate Operations Committee, whereas the Kansas State University Student Governing Association should prioritize preservation of institutional knowledge, whereas before 1996, Student Senate was required to have 1 member for every 300 full-time students and 1 member for every 600 part-time students in a college. Whereas Student Senate passed bills to reapportion itself in 1998, 1988, 1989, 1990, and 1991, but not after 1991. Whereas on December 5th, 1996, Student Senate approved Bill 969768, which amended the KSU-SGA Constitution to fix the number of student senators at 60 and required that Student Senate be reapportioned annually based on the 20th day head count of the spring semester. Whereas on December 11th, 1997, Student Senate repealed the apportionments of Student Senate, which were outdated but still contained in the bylaws. Whereas the KSU-SGA Constitution still requires Student Senate to reapportion itself before each general election based on the student head count in each main campus college and graduate school on the 20th academic day of the spring semester. Whereas the KSU-SGA bylaws, constitution, and statutes do not specify who shall reapportion Student Senate, nor what apportionment method they should use. Whereas starting sometime in the 2000s and ending in 2019, Student Senate was reapportioned by the SGA advisor. Whereas this service, while helpful, produced a lack of institutional knowledge regarding the need to reapportion Student Senate, resulting in the lack of reapportionment in 2020, which I am responsible for. And whereas defining a particular apportionment method and particular roles that are responsible for reapportioning Student Senate each year will allow a faster and more obvious transfer of institutional knowledge to future student senators. Be it enacted that Article 1, Section 2C of the KSU-SGA bylaws shall be amended as follows. And so this is actually on line 50, striking, reviewing, and making, adding, writing a report with, striking 2, changing that to 4, and then striking of Student Senate. And that's really not particularly related to the whereas clauses. We should probably add some. Section 2 is Article 1, Section 4E of the KSU-SGA bylaws shall be amended to read as follows. On line 60, changes commissioner to board. On line 62 and 63, adds reapportioned Student Senate as outlined in the Kansas State University Student Governing Association Constitution, and then renumbers, and then also deletes the reference to the primary election. And then Section 2, this legislation that should be Section 3. This legislation shall take effect upon passage by the Student Senate and signature of the Student Body President.
Are there any questions or corrections for the author?
There was a motion in the chat to, sorry, the Zoom restarted because we reached times that was set for the Zoom. So the chat was raised. But I believe the motion, if Brian wants to repeat it, that'd also be cool, was to bulk consider and summarize all of Booze's bills. And then it was seconded by Shear.
Okay, so that's 40, 41, and 43, right?
Yes. All right, so it's been moved and seconded to consider bills 40, 41, and 43, and there was a second. Are there any objections?
Was there a motion to summarize?
Yes.
Okay, sweet.
I just didn't.
Yeah, that's what you're saying.
Oh, summary was included? Gotcha. Yeah, any objections to summarizing and bulk considering? Cool. Seeing none, seeking any questions?
Or should I read summarize the next two and then?
Go ahead.
Okay. So that was bylaws, and then the next one is Constitution. And so the Constitution is actually what defines the actual method, because the Constitution already has, the instructions that there is at least one elected student senator from each college in the graduate school, and all of the things about what is established. And so the addition in this bill is just to state that apportionment of elected seats shall be made via the largest remainder method with the hair quota before its general election, which is exactly what we did last year. And so there's additional whereas clauses in here as well about how for the 2014 through 2019 and 2021 elections, Student Senate was reapportioned using the largest remainder method. And that's because, the only reason I know that is because of elections reports. So elections reports are great, and we should have more of them. And so the largest remainder, and then it explains the largest remainder method in the whereas clauses as well. And so really what it does is you multiply the number of seats by the percentage that each college gets. You round that down, and then the largest remainders of seats, you end up getting, in SGA, you end up adding 5 more seats to the 5 colleges out of the top 9 that have the largest remainders left. So before the rounding down. And then Bill 43. Is the actual elections regulations change, and the only change there is to, say that to make sure that the seats are apportioned by the elections committee as outlined in the Constitution and bylaws.
All right, are there any questions about either of the 3 pieces of legislation? Any? Seeing none, thank you very much, Andrew. That's me. That's my mic. Is there a motion to consider Bill 40? Where'd it go? 42. Caucus Leader Len.
I move to consider Bill 42.
It has been moved and seconded to consider Bill 42. Ooh. All right. Bill 212242, amendments to the KSU-SGA Constitution regarding the duties of the Speaker of the Student Senate by Blake Phillips. Whereas the Kansas State University Student Governing Association should continue to review its governing documents, whereas the duties of positions within KSU-SGA should accurately reflect the current practices within the organization, whereas currently the Speaker of the Student Senate sets the agenda of Student Senate meetings, and whereas this duty should be reflected in the roles and responsibilities of the Speaker of the Student Senate. Be it enacted that Section 1, Article 4, Section 506 of the KSU-SGA Constitution shall be amended to read as follows. And so on line 25, this adds and set the agenda of, and then on lines 36, 37, and 38, strikes the line of succession because that's already mentioned in the bylaws and isn't a duty, and then renumbers or re-letters, whatever you want to call that, the remaining.
Alrighty, thanks, Blake. Are there any questions or corrections for the author? In that case, you can take your seat. And since we already considered Bill 43 with Bill 40, we'll move on to Bill 44. Is there a motion to consider? Senator Scharnhorst.
I move to consider Bill 44.
Thanks so much.
It has been moved and seconded to consider Bill 44.
Okay, Bill 44 is the creation of the Special Committee on Strategic Oversight.
Whereas it is necessary to continuously review the effectiveness of standing Kansas State University Student Governing Association policy, whereas the term-to-term transitions of KSU SGA officers lack consistency in clarity, depth, and general effectiveness, whereas projects pursued by members of KSU SGA often meet untimely ends when their respective members graduate, whereas the KSU SGA should strive to increase the longevity of the projects it produces and improve the ability of its members to access institutional knowledge, and whereas a special committee should be charged with establishing a system of oversight to fulfill these goals. Be it enacted that Section 1, there is hereby established the Special Committee on Strategic Oversight. Section 2. The Special Committee on Strategic Oversight shall consist of the following voting members: Andrew Booth, Tommy Compton, Creighton Glasscock, Ariana O'Donoghue, Evan Porter, and Kate Thomas. Section 3, the Special Committee on Strategic Oversight shall be chaired by the following members who shall only vote to break a tie: Peyton Lynn. Section 4, the Special Committee on Strategic Oversight shall have the following serve as non-voting ex officio members: Maggie Billman and Nick Saya.
Are there any questions or corrections for the author?
I have a couple of corrections.
Copy that.
We need to add a Section 5 to be enacted to say that it gets passed once Student Senate votes on it. And then add Gus to the voting members.
Yeah. And is that just Student Senate, which I think that would actually make sense.
Student Senate and the signature of the student body president, I guess, probably.
Okay. I mean, you could make an argument this is only internal to Student Senate, except for Maggie being on.
That is actually the argument that I would make, because Maggie would be a non-voting member.
Yeah.
So this only requires the approval of Student Senate. It is unvetoable. Sorry, Michael.
Question from Croslow.
How were the voting members determined for the special committee?
So last week, Nick and I gave a presentation about the idea that we had for this committee, and then requested that members of Senate who were interested in serving on it contact us, and these were the individuals that did that.
Thank you.
I would
Yeah.
like to add, if I can.
Yes.
This is not an exclusive list. Like, if you are realizing that you should have said something last week, absolutely, like, say so, and you're welcome to join us.
Please do.
All right. Any further questions or corrections on Bill 44? Seeing none, thank you very much. Bill 45 was already passed tonight. And so with that, we will now move into second open period. Are there any speakers tonight for second open period? Chief of Staff Billman.
Good evening, everyone. I typed this out and I timed it, and I swear to you that this will take no more than 3 minutes. I'd like to start off by saying that I truly appreciate the words of thought and consideration that were presented on our Senate floor tonight, particularly by new voices. I was so excited to see all of the new voices that got up here to debate. I'm thankful that we have a body in which people feel encouraged and empowered to share their opinions, and I wholeheartedly commend anyone who has the courage to stand behind this podium and advocate for the rights and best interests of their constituents. One of the best habits that we can get into in this body is to assume best intent from each of its members. My next point and sort of the call that I'd like to make to us all is an attitude of respect that I feel sometimes lacks. I feel that our body does an excellent job of valuing and respecting the beliefs of its members when it comes down to the line of debate. I reflect back to passionate student services fee debates on the merits of cutting or not cutting funding, which would lead to the termination of employees, or even the passionate debate tonight about how the college caucus system represents students. I think that those are exemplary examples of debate from this body. People in our body did a bang-up job of representing their constituents. However, I see a total lack of respect for members of this body when it comes to the time that we spend debating on things that frankly do not matter directly to students. I totally support the time and effort spent making our practices safeguarded and efficient in order to trickle down and impact students eventually. Unfortunately, I've noticed that all too often, we as a body are far too worn out to debate the things that actually matter to our constituents by the time we get to them in the agenda. due to the debate that seems inconsequential and frankly unimpactful to the gross majority of our body. We wonder why we can't retain membership of this body, and we look toward changing rules, holding social events, or other tangible changes. These are great steps to ensure the accessibility and the welcoming environment of our body, but they do not solve the fatigue that many members feel. My suggestion to this inattention of respect to people's time, as well as to solve the issue of disinterest and disengagement, comes down to this. We as a body must make a commitment to do our homework before we meet on Thursday. I hope that this doesn't make any individuals feel called out, because this is not my intent. The solution lies within us all, myself included. For those of you who want to give a report, this really goes for me too. I should get better about this. Prepare what you want to say before you come in. That can shave off some time. For those of you who are gifted at pointing out grammatical errors, I'm not one of those people. Highlight those in the agenda and maybe send an email to someone or meet with someone after Senate. For those of you who want to make debates over internal measures and common practices, I encourage you to think deeply about the impact that your debate will have for students at large. And for those of you who feel disengaged or like you don't need to be here, find a reason to be here by writing legislation or hosting an event or something that benefits your constituents. If you feel lost or like you don't know what you're doing, please reach out to someone for help. I'm happy to help anyone write legislation, chat about PAR law, or brainstorm any big dreams you have. This body has an incredible amount of power and privilege to act on the behalf and benefit of our peers, and I encourage you all to think about those powers and privileges and utilizing them appropriately, however that may look for you. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief of Staff Billman. Are there any further speakers tonight for second open period? Senator Booz.
Yeah, so I think on both sides of the debate we had tonight, we can agree that the college caucus system needs a lot of work. And so here's what I'll be doing. So I sent an email today to the president of the Engineering Student Council, partially because I was hoping to get some more information for my debate, but also partially because I want to make sure that at least some student senators are going to their executive meetings. And so haven't gotten a reply, but I'll be following up on that and making sure that I'm going. The other thing is, if you want to write a resolution about kind of the general space of things that are constitutional amendments that got defeated, encouraging executive members or just other people to be here, or if you want to try to work on starting something, I'll feel free to reach out and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible as well. I'll try to be involved in that, as involved in building something as I am in debating against. So,
awesome. Cool. Are there any questions? I don't know. Thank you.
Questions, but
thank you very much for your speech, Senator Booz. Are there any further speakers tonight for second open period? Chair Long.
Hi all. Just wanted to point something out. If you didn't have a chance to read the allocation we passed tonight for travel, that is sending 3 individuals to DC for the American Nuclear Society. 2 of those individuals are going to that conference to present their research about thermal hydraulics and nuclear reactors and something way over my head. I just want to point out how amazing that is that we are sending 2 K-State students to present to the leaders of our country in DC about their research they do here at K-State. We do good research.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that, Chair Long.
I don't think there are questions, but
awesome. Thank you for your speech, Chair Long. Are there any further speakers tonight for second open period?
I have something.
Thank you, Ari.
Okay, yeah. So just really quickly, just from some friendly PAR law reminders about decorum. So please, when you go up to speak, do not call out specific speakers by name. It is common courtesy to just refer to previous speakers as previous speakers or previous speeches. And also make sure that when you are making a speech, this goes to Maggie's point to cut down on some time, you are making fresh debate. We don't want to keep going around in circles and saying the same thing over and over again. It gets tired, people get bored, and it just creates a lot of tension and resentment in the body. So make sure that if you are going to speak, which I completely encourage, you're bringing fresh points. And then lastly, this is a friendly reminder, make sure that if you are not drinking, if you're not eating, you are wearing your mask correctly. I know it sucks, but we gotta do it, and until we get, until COVID is over, which I don't see happening in the near future, we just have to follow the rules. It's mandated, it's school policy. We've been living this life for almost 2 years now. So thank you for hearing me out, and have a great night.
Thank you very much for your speech, Parliamentarian O'Donoghue. Are there any further speeches tonight for second open period? Seeing none, Nick, take it away.
Alrighty, thanks, Blake.
Nick, refresh it one time.
If you insist, Evan.
I do insist.
Okay, shout out to the people who dress up for Senate. I love the people who dress for success at Senate. Glad we all stuck to the dress code. The reason Senator Hotzel is not here is because it is his birthday. Happy birthday, Albert. Shout out to Blake for losing his nerd cred. Shout out to Jean Luke Pickard. Shout out to everyone else who also decided to dress casual tonight. It is a no-bones day after all. Happy late birthday to Marta Richenberg. Shout out to Marta for constantly trying to push casual Senate. This one just says Ariana sweater, and it has a little heart eyes emoji. Marta for making Senate casual. Shout out to John for coming all the way from Salina. Shout out to intern Jyoti for joining SGA. We are so happy to have you here. Shout out to Skip. Shout out to Nick for getting Gene Taylor here tonight. Shout out to Senator Stout for asking tough questions on behalf of his ag constituents. Shout out to Cameron yet again for that snake analogy. Can't stop thinking about it. Shout out to Model UN for traveling to Chicago by train. Chair Solomon is giving big professor vibes. I would personally give Chair Porter a shiny nickel. Please emphasize the shininess for a singular wink. This is in all caps. Shout out to the newest Phase 2 intern. Welcome to the team. Shout out to Blake for sliding in the Twitter DMs in the name of SGA. To RJ and whoever came up with the plan to special order the expulsion, nice move, parentheses, even if I didn't like it. Shout out to Parliamentarian O'Donoghue for always being on top of issues in Senate, as well as her outfit. Great speeches from Speaker Phillips and Pro Tem Saya. Thank you so much for your passion. Shout out to everyone who debated for the first time or for the first time in the negative. Shout out to Peyton Lynn for being an awesome dancer and being full of energy. Shout out to Nick Saya for creating a new ridiculous metaphor for us to overuse. Goodbye to Cameron's snake. Shout out to all of the people who got up and debated tonight. It's awesome to hear new and different voices than normal. When Croslow votes, it sounds like the voice of God. Shout out to y'all for testing my patience tonight. Shout out to Ariana for staying on top of a Zoom system. Shout out to Wildcat Chamber for always being freezing cold. Bentley is TikTok famous. To Billy for serving our country. Thank you. Marta is the new Pope. Shout out to Jean-Luc Picard. We will now refer to bills as Booze's bill, period, strictly. Maggie, you are my life. Shout out to Robert for making his rules that allow us to function. Shout out to all who spoke for the first time tonight. Well said, Chief of Staff Billman. Shout out to all of the work we do. We're pretty cool. And finally, God is a woman, and that woman is Ariana O'Donoghue.
Awesome. Thank you all for those shout outs. Reference of legislation for the night, the booze bills plus the the speaker bill, Bill 42, will be referred to the Senate Operations Committee, and Bill 44, the creation of the Special Committee on Strategic Oversight, will be referred to the Senate Executive Committee. With that, we will now move into second roll call for the night.
Alrighty, thanks. We can be quick about this. Bain. Bannister.
Here.
Barron.
Here.
Blood.
Here.
Booze.
Here.
Bray. Chappas. Compton.
Here.
Croslow.
Here.
Cunningham. DeMott.
Here.
Doc.
Here.
Dunlap.
Here.
Ansero.
Here.
Esslinger. Fields.
Here.
Fuss.
Here.
Gann.
Here.
Glasscock.
Here.
Holland. Jambunathan.
Here.
Kidd.
Here.
Koch.
Here.
Kramer. Lister.
Here.
Long. Lynn.
Here.
Marquez.
Here.
Mayer. McPhee. Meyer.
Here.
Middaugh.
Here.
Nelson.
Here.
Pineda Gomez. Porter.
Yes.
Prester. Richenberg.
Here.
Riffle.
Here.
Rook. Salmon. Scharnhorst. Shear. Spleakle.
Here.
Stout. Thomas.
Here.
Wallace.
Here.
Warren. Willis Jackson. And Willis Reese.
Alrighty, with that, I will now seek a motion for adjournment tonight. Ooh, Caucus Leader Pineda Gomez.
Move to adjourn until next Thursday at 7.
Second. It has been moved and seconded to adjourn until next week, same time, same place. Are there any objections? Seeing none. Have a great night, everyone. Drive home safe. Go Cats.
Don't tell me what to do. Don't tell me what to do. I appreciate your commendation. I like dancing.